Welcome, one and all. We are back. We are live with the HCast episode 39. Been a while. I do apologize, ladies and gents. Good to be back. Glad to be here. I can assure you of that. I sort of broke myself back into it all not last night, Sunday night. We did a chill stream, but we're back. We're back with a regular podcast. It's up here. We're good to go. Tuesdays, Thursdays. We've got the second channel, the podcast channel, the highlights, the best bits. You guys love it. Down below in the description box, Mr. H Reviews, live archives. We've got a doozy for you today because everyone here right now has seen The Flash. So we're going to review it. We're going to talk about the box office. We're going to talk about the box office. We're going to talk about all the behind the scenes nonsense. We're going to talk about Batgirl. Oh, we've got so much crap to talk about. All current situational stuff. We'll have to avoid a few weeks worth of stuff because obviously I've not been here. For those that don't know, I competed in a bodybuilding contest, blah, 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 blah. But we're here. We're here now. Slap at a table. Hope you're all well, ladies and gents. Good to be back. Genuinely missed doing the podcast. How are you doing? I'm joined by Culture Casino and Tom Connors. How are you doing? Guys, you all right?
I'm extraordinary. I've been waiting for this to come back.
Look at the energy I've got.
I know.
Look at the energy. Finally.
I was grinding the gears of this podcast for 2 weeks. I was like, I'm not doing my show. Oh, no. Tom's down there playing with his Flash and Batman.
Just in case I need it for the review.
You might need it.
Yeah. I'm gonna get you to recreate some scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good to be back with some energy. So for those that don't know, anyone that doesn't know anything about what we do here, so this is the podcast. It's a twice weekly podcast, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays is 9 p.m. UK time. I have to say UK time because it's not GMT. It's sort of UK time, basically. Thursdays, 7 p.m. UK time. If you want to join in on the conversation, at the end of each individual topic, I go and review all of the super chats and we discuss the super chats. You don't have to talk about specifically what we're talking about. You can ask anything, guys. Anything. Great way to support the show. Great way just to converse with us or just throw in whatever you want us to talk about. Okay. The second channel is down below in the description box. It's Mr. H Reviews live archives. So if you miss out on this stream, you can head on down there. They do go up there. I still need to fix the last few. They will go up there, I promise. And they also get chopped up into little bits and pieces as well. I've got loads of energy. We had to take a hiatus. Why? Let's just get it quickly out of the way because I competed as a bodybuilder. There you go. That's why I didn't have any energy. I did pretty well to not suffer right up until the end. And then the last 2 weeks, I was just a complete zombie. I was a complete zombie. I went down from 95 kilos to 83. Quick. There you go. Done. It's gone. Just in a flash on the screen. There you go.
Unintended.
Yeah. So there you have it. But we're back now. Let's talk about the Flash. So let's. I don't know your thoughts on it. I can guess your thoughts, but we've not reviewed it. So let's do a little group review of the Flash. Obviously, it's been out for. It's not been out for. It's been out
couple
for a week
days.
Now. It's only been out a couple of days. Yeah, no. So Wednesday, it has almost been out for a week. Actually,
there was like a Monday preview screening, and then it was technically released here Wednesday or Thursday, depending on where you were.
Yeah. So I mean, it was released here on a Wednesday. I watched it on a Wednesday. So basically, it's been out for a week. What are your thoughts? Because I've given my thoughts. I actually liked it more than I thought I would, and I hate Ezra Miller. I think he's a douche canoe. His performance was all right, actually, in parts. I gave it a 5 out of 10. That's my quick summary. What do you think?
I think it hit me in a pretty strange way. I wasn't expecting much out of the film, and I wasn't disappointed because there wasn't a lot to it. I've said this before, and it's the truest statement I could come up with. This Ezra Miller film had an Ezra Miller problem, and it was Ezra Miller. There were too many of them. At one point, there's more than one. Let's just put it in those terms. But no, I mean, getting back to the seriousness of it all, I overall, there was a good movie there for like the first 3 minutes, and then
Jesus.
it went very much off the rails for me. A lot of this too is that it tried to pull from a story that all of us seem to be familiar with, Flashpoint. The problem is that it was just picking and choosing throughout the entire run of this film tiny little elements that were there, and none of them were true to the nature of the Flashpoint at all. They changed so much of it that it wasn't going to appeal to somebody who knew a bit about it. And then I went with someone who knew everything about it. Like when the books came out,
they were really angry,
and they were very upset. And look, I can feel for them. I mean, you're talking about drastic changes in a lot of things, including the fact that there's no Superman. So it's just. And I know it's spoiler, everybody, but no, it's not really a spoiler. But it's just it was really rough, and it was probably, and this is saying something, probably the most convoluted film I've seen in 3 to 5 years. You could tell it was a patchwork quilt. You could tell that a lot of things were sewn together more than once. There were times you could see the reshoots because there was a different facial structure. There was a different physical build. There was, and those are just the things that are minor. There were some major stuff like hair issues and all kinds of other things. But setting all that aside, it was also sold in multiple different ways that were really disingenuous.
Greatest superhero movie of all time.
Believe me, I'll get to that. I'm sure we will as a group. But I
tweeted about that.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's that I was anticipating and hoping that Tom, my buddy Tom down there, was right in that I was getting a Batman movie with the Flash in it, and because I wanted to see 89 Batman again, and I didn't get that either.
You got the worst interpretation of 89 Batman because he's an idiot.
Yeah, there's a lot of things there, and of course I did enjoy, and this is the one part of it that I was like, oh, well, that's kind of a fun way to explain a multiverse, like a bowl of spaghetti. I was like, that's pretty decent. But it just ultimately came down to visually it was muddled. The story was muddled. The acting was uneven and muddled. I mean, the muddled is the word I'm using here. You got the theme, but there is one scene, and everybody's already heard about it, with the babies, that I was just done.
Baby shower,
and I was right. The baby shower, exactly. Tom.
That's brilliant. Good way of putting it.
And I
believe that's what they actually called it during the making of it.
Oh, you're joking? Really? Holy shit!
I referred to that quite a few times.
Wow. It was so bad. And here's the problem: that's in the first 15 minutes of the film. So if you are already out during the first 15 minutes of a film, they're not pulling you back in. And if somebody says again that it is not woke, in the first 10 minutes of the film, same 15 minutes, it goes woke AF. So
I didn't notice it. It was just more or less that it was so bad I didn't notice how woke it was. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
No, it's
well, I was just going to say, I think it's important. We're talking about the baby shower thing, so it's obviously we're going to be touching on some slight spoilers here. I don't think anyone really cares too much about it anyway, but we have to talk about some slight spoilers. So let's. What are we referring to when we're talking about the baby shower? So in the first 15 minutes of the film, we're essentially all of the Ben Affleck scenes are there. That's fair to say. First 15 minutes.
He wasn't kidding about the 5 minutes. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So what happens is the Flash is called in to help Ben Affleck's Batman save a hospital. The hospital's part of it's about to fall as well, and part of that falling hospital is a baby ward or something.
And it's kind of convoluted because everybody else has been evacuated. Yeah,
and they're not. But the doors they can't
are jammed for some reason.
Well, yeah, some bollocks like there's some convoluted nonsense. But basically, it has the worst. So it has some of the worst CGI, like PS2 grade CGI. And there's these babies floating around through the air, and it's I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. So that's what we're referring to, the baby shower.
And again, I mean, getting back into it real quick, and wrapping up my thoughts and review of it. The ending was unsatisfying. There was wasted cameos. There's nothing but shattered dreams for your love of Batman 89 at the end of it all. And that left me with a score that put this butt sniffing Eternals right at just, I'm going to say 3.9 out of 10. So like normally I would have put it at a 4, but I was like, no, this is more offensive and destructive than Eternals was. And let me tell you, Eternals was not a good film.
Yeah, you can tell I watched this on a full belly, can't you? I gave it a 5.
Well,
God, I was hopped up on carbs. Holy shit!
Sorry, it just
it's good. It's good to see the differences.
I couldn't find 10 good minutes of the film to enjoy, and that's actually something that I really try to do when I watch a film. Is there 10 minutes here that really gave me my money's worth? And that's kind of how I judge modern films now, because we've lowered the bar so much. If I can't find 10 good minutes, then what was the point of this film?
Yeah. Okay. Tom, then thoughts?
Wow. Where to begin with this thing?
Can you recreate some scenes? Come on.
I might get there. Just overall, my initial thoughts though on the whole thing. I mean, my God, this made the time travel in Endgame make more sense. The spaghetti incident was like, I mean, well, there you go. There's a scene for you. Be like Michael Keaton, be all like, do you know that Guns N' Roses album? Appetite for Destruction? No, the other one. Use Your Illusion? No, the other one. Use Your Illusion 2? You dumb fuck, the spaghetti incident. Yeah, what about it? That's what you did to the multiverse. That was a horrible album, dude. I know! You made a horrible movie. You should feel bad. That's what it was. And much like the spaghetti incident, this movie is just chock full of stuff that's nothing but remakes. Like, really, at the end of the day, it's just nothing but endless remakes. I'm still curious on what woke stuff Culture found, because to me, the movie was just so bad from beginning to end, convoluted. The more I think about it, the more pissed off and anything I get about it, because it could have been a good movie, right? I've never been go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what was the woke stuff? Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, Culture. What was the woke thing we missed here? Because I missed out on that. What did I miss?
Okay, well, I'll give you the most blatant one in the first 10 minutes of the film. You ready? Wonder Woman shows up, saves the day, gets both guys' hands wrapped in the lasso of truth, and emasculates them both simultaneously.
Oh, that's right.
Bam!
Will they emasculate themselves?
I was more
come on now,
distracted by if I want to fight crime.
She wasn't working hard to get the lasso of truth off of them.
I was more distracted by the if I want to fight crime, I should really fight poverty line than anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't.
I don't know if I could give this a 2 or a 3 at best. Maybe. Wow. Is it as bad as some superheroes? No, it's watchable in certain cases. But again, it just pisses me off because it could have been fun. It could have been a nice send off for the Snyder crew, and at the same time, a nice, celebration of the DC universe. And it just kind of landed like a limp noodle of spaghetti on Michael Keaton's plate. It really did. The whole, that scene is basically a metaphor for the whole friggin' movie. Sorry, I'm trying to watch my language for the clips, but it's just I feel sorry for the general audience because they're going to be lost. I find it ironic that for months I was hearing rumors about them recasting and replacing Ezra Miller, when how many Back to the Future jokes about him in here? Like, that is kind of almost ironic. But that's the other thing. The problem with this movie is it's one big Easter egg, right? Like, if you don't get the joke about Eric Stoltz, if you don't know that, then you don't get the joke. Same thing with like the, certain cameos and such, without getting into too many spoilers at this point. But for anybody who
Well,
might just be waiting
the
out. But
directors
yeah.
even come out and just said, "I don't care. Like, if you didn't get the cameos, I don't care," and that says a lot. To be fair, like,
Well,
that
there's
level of
something worse
care
about
and
this, and this
affection.
is kind of a spoiler. The director has had to come out now and explain this movie because I pointed out a glaring problem with it. And that is they never introduce a third party into the equation of Barry's mother's murder. So the way
Well, no, I
this
did
movie
it.
plays out, Barry kills his own mother from the start. And you can sit there and say, well, that's not the way it is in the story. That's the way it is in, not in the comic book, not in the animated version, and maybe not in certain people's headcanon. But guess what? The director himself had to say that, yeah, we didn't address it in this movie because we were planning on addressing it in a sequel. The sequel that's never coming. So forever in history, this movie, I've been pushing it, hashtag Barry killed his mom. Because that's really what this movie boils down to.
Well, it's not even just that as well. Like, it's the fact that even if there was going to be a sequel, right? What's the story of that sequel? So he finds out that someone else killed his.
Yeah,
So
there's
he's gonna
Eobon
go.
Thawne. Yeah.
He's going to go back and stop them and do the same thing. Like, it's the same story.
Well, it would be
same
him versing the man
motivation.
who actually killed his mother. Then that's the point I think he was getting at. But you have to introduce it here. You have to at least sprinkle it in here, right? The idea, because that's the
very
way
much
it is.
the same, isn't it? It's the
Sorry.
same motivation. It's the same. It's everything is the same. You should just go to like Gorilla Grodd or something like that. Like, you can't say it's the same thing. The same emotional weight and conviction for the movie becomes identical to the first one. It's so dumb.
Well, and
So
that's
I
kind of
hate
the
it. I hate
problem
it.
with the original Flashpoint story is he never really does. That's not his motivation from the start. His motivation is just to stop his mom from being murdered. And then at the end of the day, instead of actually doing something that would get his dad out of prison for, I don't know, a lot sooner, considering technically if you stop to think about it, he basically framed his own dad vicariously to go to prison for that long. He still sits there forever until that video finally gets cleared up. You know what I mean?
That's yeah. Well, it's not even that his video. It's not even that the video gets cleared up. It's that it's actually that's just a random fluke on the multiverse.
And look, we just saw a trial. What was it, last year, the year before, whatever it was, where video evidence like that not very admissible when it's been manipulated.
Yeah,
I said that right out loud in the theater. I'm like, that's inadmissible.
God damn. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, let me. Is that your sort of round out review?
There's more I could get into. There's tons of things that I could dive into as far as what's wrong with it. I could nitpick it apart. Like I said, though, the more I think about it, it's not so much that I disliked it. It's more so that I'm upset that it could have been something good, right? There is a kernel of an idea here, especially in that scene between Ezra and Ben when the Flash finally figures out, oh, I have more in common with this guy than I realized. We both lost parents. We're both kind of like detectives. We're both superheroes. You know, there could have been a through line there that they used for this movie that didn't need to be all convoluted up by all the rest of the Justice League. Because I even said at the end of the day, this movie feels more like a Justice League movie than the Justice League movies did. Either or, which pick your poison, whether it's the Zack Snyder one or the Joss Whedon one. I mean, it felt more like they were all at least there for a reason, even if some of them were shorter cameos. I mean, you could tell Sasha was cut out to the bare minimum. I see a lot of people coming after James Gunn for this. Look, James Gunn was still in college when they shot this movie, right? Like, I mean, I'm not totally wrong.
Yeah, this has been done for a while.
I mean, I love that people are blaming him for it. It's like nothing he cut out or changed stopped people from going to the theaters.
That's true.
So you can't blame him for all he did was stop any promises that were coming forward that weren't going to be fulfilled. That's really all he did. Exactly. I mean, do I agree with his joke at the end with the final cameo? No, I think it's stupid. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. This is over with. It was a nice send off to the Snyderverse, I guess, even though we got 1.5 more movies to sit through. But I think this movie is more indicative of the problems, and I've said this on a few other podcasts now, This movie basically encapsulates everything that's been wrong with the last few years of not just superhero movies, but tentpole films, bloated, big, overblown films. It's overdone the multiverse to death now. We've had
Yeah, I
3 or
agree with
4
that.
movies in the last year or so with just multiverse endless shit. And that's just in the last year. We can go back even further and get more and add to the bunch if we wanted to, but that's my point is it feels like we finally hit a brick wall with this, and it's almost
Mm.
ironic that it was with the fastest man alive
Yeah.
with the slowest movie ever made.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
So
movie literally took 6 to 8 years to be made, guys. I mean, I'm not even
it's
exaggerating. It was
outrageous.
announced back in 2014.
Yeah.
Well, and
So I'd like to go into some of my thoughts a little bit further and cover some of the things that you guys didn't, right? So I think I mean, like I gave it like a 5 to 6 out of 10, something like that. I think it was 5 or 6 out of 10, middling. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and a lot of that, and I hate Ezra Miller, so I'm being honest. A lot of that was down to Ezra Miller's performance, as like when he's doing the heartfelt stuff, when he's not his weird, young, annoying self thing. But it, and that's all fine. Like as I'm sure Tom will agree and has said, it's those things, and along with the other stuff, that there's a glimmer of a good movie in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But also, and it is, and I struggle to justify Michael Keaton being in it. Like he's good. It's nice to see him. It's just a pure nostalgia. It's nice to see him. But would you? I don't know whether I could recommend this film for someone that wants to just watch Michael Keaton. because
I
he's
have a
not in it much.
metaphor for him. Yeah, I don't know if you'll get this much, Mr. H, but I know some of our audience, maybe culture will. This movie felt like when a band turns around and redoes all their greatest hits and releases an album.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Like it's the same songs, but it's got a little bit of a new flavor to it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of
Yeah.
pathetic and sad because all you see is Michael Keaton literally going through the motions and saying all the lines you expect him to say, to the point where I even pointed this out when we did our review the other night. The whole audience pretty much said in unison, "I'm Batman," because they knew it was coming, right? Like it's so like you could telegraphed and sad in a weird way. It's kind of pathetic.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I don't know whether I could. I don't know whether I could recommend. And I said this in my review on the main channel, is whether I could recommend this to anyone that wants to just see Michael Keaton back, because at the end of the day, he's very underused, and spoilers, he's not that smart because he ends up killing himself multiple times as well. And I guess, is that to save the wider narrative? Yeah, maybe, etc. I don't know. But it's not a great send off for a character that people love either. Now, Supergirl is an interesting one, right? Because I didn't hate her. Didn't hate her at all, actually. Hated what they did with the character to prop her up, though. And this is writing. This is Christina Hodson, who I believe wrote Birds of Prey, if I remember rightly. And that speaks volumes. I'm pretty certain she did. Culture, you can Google this for me if that's all right. But
Google.
what they did to prop Supergirl up was have her have the codex in her body. Why? So she was the one that had the codex, and Kal-El was murdered as a baby. It's just like, fuck off. This kind of stuff just makes you go, come on, really? You don't need to do that, And also that it seemed that didn't seem to be an element that was actually important, right? You didn't need Supergirl to be enraged at Kal-El's death as a baby for the impetus of that fight to happen, right? They were going to have that fight anyway. So that's, it's another thread to the bow of self-destruction that they were, on a course of for the
because she already knew who he was, right? Like, I mean, that's what
she already agreed. She already agreed to fight with him, so they were going to fight anyway.
They kind of neglect to let you know that she was already a teenager or whatever when she left. Not Krypton, but the other planet. I forget what planet she's come, but she even acts like she's from Krypton anyway. So I guess it would be on Krypton. So whatever.
they were going to have, but what my point is General Zod and Supergirl were going to have the fight anyway.
Yeah.
The writer didn't need to add the additional dialogue of, yeah, well, I murdered Kal-El as a baby, basically, right? And actually, I did it unnecessarily because you've got the codex. It's in your blood. You did that. It's not necessary. They're going to have the fight. So, you know, you have like, when writers write something, it's to get from point A to point B and to explain why that happens. And sometimes writers, terrible Hollywood ones who are striking at the moment, add additional things which make you hate them and hate what they're doing. And that was one of those things that they just didn't need to add because they were going to get to point A to B anyway because of something that they had written earlier in the film, which was, I will help you. Oh, okay, cool. So they're going to have a fight then, aren't they? Fucking just ridiculous. And I didn't really get young, creepy Barry Allen's obsession with trying to consistently, like, why he randomly just wanted to save Supergirl and went mental about it. Bizarre.
Because I think there's a lot chopped out of there, H. I think.
Yeah, well, yeah.
As far as, because you can tell there's definitely like, okay, here's the thing where there's also like a conflict between both the Barrys that I don't think was explored enough. You have, let's say, version A Barry or older middle Barry, whatever. He is still obsessed with Iris, right? He wants to get back to his timeline so he can get with Iris. This younger Barry, he is not really into Iris yet. He's just meeting Supergirl for the first time. You can tell he's got a thing for Supergirl. There was clearly probably more in this movie setting them up to have like this little romance thing going on. And that's why he's determined to save her. But you're right. They don't give you that motivation there to go, oh, okay. So he's different also because of this. See, that's the thing, is there's so many different things about this Barry to where if they would have made the Barry so different and they would have shown certain things in the movie to go, because they do kind of set up a little bit there, but like at the same time, it makes no sense. It should have shifted the other way around at the end. And the other Barry should have been like, no, mom's going to die no matter what. And when our Barry should have been against it, but just finally accepts it, because it would have made more sense to have the twisted Barry who grew up with a mother who would rather be like, no, because of this, I got to do this no matter what. It was kind of weird to have him the way they kind of, because he even says flat out, you're going to kill mom, which is also what put it in my head in the first place. Plus that creepy scene where he comes up to his mom dressed like a murderer. Like, it's like, boy, that's weird. But it's just, there was ways you could have done this. And that third act, just having Supergirl in there in general, the whole Zod thing felt like BVS and Justice League all over again, where we've got this tacked on third act thing that doesn't belong. When the third act should have been about him fighting whoever killed his mother. Really, at the end of the day, let's be real. And if as much as they had to reshoot this movie and they knew where they were going, they should have found a way to finagle that in there. And it wouldn't have been too hard. You could have found a way. It's preposterous because there was other things from the Flashpoint storyline that didn't make sense in the first place that they brought in here and brought in new convoluted reasons for it. And it's like, why didn't you just leave it out? You know, well, and the whole cameo thing was stupid because it makes no difference or makes no sense. And it serves zero purpose.
Yeah. Well, so Culture has just confirmed to me that I was indeed correct, that Christina Hodson is the writer of The Flash, and Christina Hodson did write Birds of Prey. Why on earth would you fucking get her back? I mean, granted, this has been in the can for a while, but oh my God, surely you'd get someone else to redo her work. But that speaks volumes as to why they did that with Supergirl, and just, terrible. Basically, my review and everyone else's review, not a great movie. No. I can't recommend it. It was better than I thought it was going to be, absolutely, but I can't recommend it. And I think I said exactly the same thing on my
I agree with you. This one's going to be a bit more mixed than some of the other DC properties, but at the end of the day, I think most people will feel better if they just wait for it on video on demand.
Yeah, because I mean, I was rather plain spoken in my own review, and to be fair, you know, I keep finding more problems rather than, you know, enjoyment in the film. So I'm sticking by my 3.9 out of 10.
No, good. So, ladies and gents, we're going to get to some super chats now. So if you want to join in the show, you want to support the show, you just want to say anything for us to read out, super chats are the way to do it. We've got 580 people here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a twice weekly podcast. We're finally back up and running. I took 2 weeks out to compete as a bodybuilder. Anyway, I'm back. Hit that thumbs up button whilst you're here. So Tom Workin for $5 says, I dug the multiverse member berries towards the end, but not a saving grace. And I dug the baby shower, but I'm a sucker for wordplay. Yeah, well, I did not like the member berries towards the end. I did not like at all.
Yeah,
I just thought they were totally pointless. So they're absolutely redundant. Just,
It makes no sense on so many different levels. Like it really started to feel like a DC's greatest hits clip show after a little bit there, because none of them served any purpose.
Well, a lot of them are not even member berries. Well, I guess member berries, but for like really niche stuff.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
you know?
Easter eggy
Just like,
member berry stuff. Even like the black and white world drove me nuts because it's like only 2 seasons of the show were in black and white. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't black and white the whole time, and to have a black and white world is stupid. It makes no sense. It's just, yeah. It's one thing to do like Spider-Man Noir and do that kind of a thing in a cartoon, but to do it in a real live action movie is like,
And it was also, I think what annoyed, like, and the member berries at the end is a perfect representation of some of the, one of the main problems with this movie, which is the CGI, right? Because obviously all of that was entirely CGI, but also it wasn't. And we've got to touch on it now. Because Nicolas Cage actually suited up as Superman, for fuck's sake.
I don't see where
CGI'd over the top.
I don't see where exactly. Yeah, they say the same thing about what's her face as Supergirl, Helen Slater, and I didn't see that either.
Okay,
why would you even do that?
I don't see any reason for them to have been suited up. Both of those characters looked fake and rubbery from beginning to end, and the extended.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, the extended scene with Cage was clearly all maybe motion capture, mocap, because that looks, his face looks rubbery, everything around him looks rubbery. It looks like all the other terrible CG in this.
His nose is way too big too. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
It bends. I mean, I'm like, gosh, you guys couldn't even take it. You couldn't establish a proper wireframe. I'm like, good gravy,
mate. Apparently, what they did was they shot it. But then they just CGI'd it, like a la The Thing.
Why?
And this is why? None of the stuff this guy says now can be taken with any shred of seriousness, because his explanation for why the CGI is so shit was a style. Yeah. It even says it here, it's a stylistic decision in the Speed Force. Then explain why Supergirl looks like she's made out of plasticine and Play-Doh.
I call bullshit.
The Speed Force, then of course
I call bullshit on all this, because I'll tell you why. I actually have some basis for this, because I've known at least I think 3 or 4 people who saw earlier cuts of this movie. And Chris Gore even said the same thing the other day on Monday, because he said he also knew somebody who saw an earlier screening of it before.
Well, I had leaks before.
Yeah, well,
you did. A long time
and when
ago.
they showed one of the screenings here a couple months back, when they didn't show the ending, they flat out said it's not done yet. So excuse the CGI did not change between that screening or any of the previous screenings before. That's what I've been told, is they did not do anything to fix this movie. As I've said before, the moment they decided that this was done, they decided, nope, we're not spending any more fucking money on it, because as I reported, the Hollywood Reporter confirmed almost all of my reporting. The only things they didn't confirm in there is what I was reporting about them pretty much, like I said earlier, thinking about replacing Ezra Miller, but they were balancing the cost factor as opposed to going forward. At that point, they were still thinking about trying to salvage the Snyder characters, just not the Snyder verse.
Yeah.
Then that's when James Gunn came on board, and Warner Brothers saw that Black Adam was going to fail miserably, even with Henry Cavill in it, and they made the decision to allow him to reboot. That is what happened. Well, and at that point, they didn't want to spend any more money on this movie. The only money that was spent was the money to shoot that last cameo.
and you could see where they clipped out Cavill. You could see where they clipped out things. Again, like I said just a few moments ago, this was a patchwork quilt of things that they knew they may be able to separate from the future and from the past. So it made it just terribly convoluted. The story didn't make a lot of sense. There aren't a lot of people.
Got to get back, mate. Got to get back on the fucking CGI, because the explanation, honestly, the explanation that they gave,
I meant to do that.
It makes you. It's Hollywood going, we think you're stupid.
Well,
it was a stylistic choice because of the Speed Force. Yeah. Go on then. Explain everyone else. Come on.
Okay, so let's do this. And you described it as PS2 graphics.
Yeah,
putting the baby in the microwave was the least offensive part of that scene. You know,
the dog was pretty bad as well.
It bothered me. It bothered me an awful lot. You know, but we've abandoned physics. We've abandoned all kinds of other stuff. The minute he steps on a piece of glass or into that other stuff, he's sending it like with rocket speed downward in real time when the Speed Force is no longer around him. It just, go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't they explain later in the movie when he speaks to I've just realized this, when he speaks to his younger self, he says, don't move anyone.
Yes.
At incredibly high speed.
Right.
Because of what happens.
Right.
Everyone should have vomited like he did, right?
Yes.
Or the friction, they would have gone.
The rules go in and out the door left and right, which really kind of bothered me. It's like, why are you going to spend the time to tell us about grounding yourself if you're going to do one of those shockers, if you're not even going to worry about all the other, physics and things that you should be worried about here? Because you're right. And I said that before. Not only, first of all, let's not even worry about getting somebody sick. If you don't grab their neck the right way, you're going to snap their neck the moment you go into Speed Force. Not only that, if you watch somebody who's taking like a few G's for like training for like the Air Force or something. They're just like looking like pancakes and shit. Can you imagine? That's what somebody would look like if they were going, like, that's what's not realistic about that at all in the least.
Well, again, setting physics aside, let's get back to the high vibration thing where he passes through walls. I'm thinking your interior would be gelatinized if you were shaking that fast. And
that was one of Flash's powers I've never been a fan of.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, there's another solution to this that you could do, which is, swipe somebody's keys, go hack a computer, whatever. I mean, it's just
how didn't he? Anyway, I don't. Anyway, it's super dumb.
I know Flash, he does in the comics, but it's just never been one of my favorite of his.
But it makes no sense to take another human and pass them through.
Yeah, dude, that's true. I will accept him being able to do it, but him holding somebody being able to do it, that sets up a whole new set of problems, even if they're vibrating at the same. You have to calculate for more vibration because you're holding on to another person.
Regardless, the one thing I did enjoy that was in this film was Sasha Calle. I think she was the least offensive part.
But I wonder if that's just because she got chopped the F out culture. That's what I'm curious about.
Possibly.
And the funny thing is, irony of irony is they made sure she was in that last scene originally, so we didn't see that the last time we saw her was being killed. But yet that's how the movie is now. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So let's just finish off some of these super chats, guys.
But sorry.
McRib for $1.99 says Warner Brothers Discovery stocks drops 5% today. Today? That's quite a lot. 5% is quite high, isn't it? Did they? If they did,
they did announce a bunch of layoffs for the television side too, so that might be part of it.
Does make sense. Tiger Valley sent 14 South African rands. Says, "Welcome back, Mr. H. Nice mustache."
He's rocking it. Not many men can rock a mustache like that anymore.
I've got to say, it's for a purpose. It's going in a little while. It was it's like it was a bet thing. It's not.
You kind of look like a
going
cop.
soon.
Yeah, he does.
You people have said that. All right, I've been involved. Ignoring people in the chat.
You know who you look like? You ever seen Reservoir Dogs? Yeah, okay. So
Yeah,
you know the
stop.
scene in the bathroom where Tim Roth
Yeah.
is sitting there with all the cops telling the story? It's just the story though. You look like the cop that goes, "Hey you, if you fucking move, I'm gonna blow your fucking face off." You look like that guy.
Actually, what he's not telling the audience is that he's in the sequel to Hot Fuzz.
I am, yeah.
That would be
God.
awesome. They need to make a sequel to that.
Tom working for $2 says Hemsworth is right. They need a pair-back scope. I don't know what that means.
Their pair-back scope.
They need to pair
back. Pair back the scope of these films.
Oh,
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Shake from Hunger Team for $10 says, "Hey guys, how are you? Do you think Oppenheimer will make any money considering it has to deal with Mission Impossible and Barbie?" So, predictions, because I don't know.
I'm going to go on a limb and say
it's a weird one.
It's a weird time to be releasing this movie. They should have saved it for fall. This does not feel like a summer movie. I have a feeling that this is going to be 2 movies in a row where Nolan isn't, even though this might be a good movie, I wonder if it's going to stumble between Mission Impossible and Barbie, because those 2 are going to be duking it out for the rest of the summer. You mark my words on that. And I think that's part of the reason why Tom Cruise is peeved about this whole thing with the IMAX, because he knows Barbie is going to be a force to contend with. And I also think that's why he praised The Flash, to be honest with you. I could be wrong on this, but I think that he had a little conversation with somebody at Warner Brothers, and they're like, he's like, can you guys make sure that your movie is out of IMAX by the time Mission Impossible comes out? And they're like, sure, as long as you can say The Flash is the best superhero movie you ever saw.
I still think that's bollocks. He never said anything publicly. I still think that's bollocks, you know?
Who?
He's never said any. He's never said. Tom Cruise has never said that publicly. You'll never find an actual quote from him saying that he liked The Flash.
No.
Okay.
You'll never see a quote from him anywhere on any of his actual social medias, any interviews saying that he liked The Flash. It's just other people this is why I think it's just bollocks.
Yeah, I've been saying that. I've been saying that now for a couple of weeks.
I said,
if not, I can see it as being a trade-off too. I mean, that makes sense.
Hey, can we say that you said this was the best? Yeah, because if you're like,
what has he got to lose for that? He's not going to make a superhero movie. Then there's another rumor going around that he's in talks to direct one of the DC movies or be in one of the DC movies. I'm like, I don't see that either, but okay.
But Oppenheimer is a weird one, you know. Like, it doesn't feel like the marketing's all over the place, and I think they're relying on Christopher Nolan being this sort of mystical figure that he has become known to be, you know, of cinema. Oh, what's it gonna be? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be hugely successful. Will it make? And what's the budget for Oppenheimer? Do we know?
Oh, I'm sure it's $5 billion. Knowing
it was pretty high reported. Let me see if I can suss it out.
We were joking that you watch, they're going to let him set off a nuke, and then they did let him set off a small nuke.
They actually didn't let him, did they?
It was like small hydrogen bomb or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
It was a Moab. Yeah, and reported budget to date is $100 million.
Oh
wow, that's conservative for Nolan, really, if you think about it.
That's nothing. You know what? I think it'll make money. I think it'll go into profit.
I just think the timing of it is off because this is more of an Oscar fair film. It's something you'd release in Thanksgiving time.
Well,
I mean, look, Cillian Murphy's. I really rate Cillian Murphy. I'm looking forward to seeing him in this. I think this movie, as per the question, do you think Oppenheimer will make any money? I think it will make money based on that budget. Yeah, I think it'll make profit.
It might.
Culture?
Oh, it'll definitely be profitable. My estimation puts it between $400 and $500 million in its theatrical run. Yeah, I think minimum earning number global is about 400 million. I would say it feasibly could get to 500 million. It controls the premium large format screens for 3 weeks. So it controls all the IMAX screens and everything else. And it was shot in open matte IMAX format. So it is made for IMAX, and that's why they were able to sign the contract, they were able to sign the contract for Oppenheimer, is because it was basically a dedicated IMAX film. If you don't see the film in IMAX, you're not seeing the whole film. That's just the way.
I'm just curious.
Literally,
yeah.
I'm just curious how it will play, considering I'm sure the damn thing's 3 hours long.
I think it's good kind of programming.
It is to a point.
But yeah, all right. Well, interesting. We'll move on now to these last few super chats here. So, guys, if you want your 2 cents into the conversation before we move on to different topics or at the end of each topic, super chats are the way to do it. Also, we've got like 6 people here. Hit that thumbs up button, guys. Give the podcast stream a big thumbs up. Check out the second channel, linked in the description box. Mr. H Reviews live archives, and everyone else's channel that appears on this panel is down there. Hit subscribe on their channels. They're gracious enough to come here. You like their input. That's why you're watching. So you'll like their channels. Hit subscribe. Jarrett, I can't say Tedoshio, I think, for $5 says this whole experience probably reminded Keaton why he bailed on the role in the first place. Yeah, I can believe that. And then we get this one as well, saying the Na'vi babies in Avatar 2 look infinitely more lifelike than the babies in The Flash.
True
yeah,
story.
I'd agree with that as well. I mean,
True story.
the CGI in The Flash is some of the worst in comic book movies in general. I think that was
PlayStation 2,
I covered.
PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, somewhere in there. It might even be Sega.
Yeah.
Genesis bad. I mean, it was.
Fuck's sake.
It wasn't good. It looked like your description of plasticine and Play-Doh was kind, my friend. Kind.
Yeah, true. It reminds me of like, was it Blade? No, Supergirl. Do you remember Matrix? Is it Matrix Reloaded?
Yeah.
That's the second Matrix film. When Neo comes out and does the runaround scene.
Oh yeah, that is so weird with how his face is all.
But that's exactly the same.
Yes.
Level of CGI as Sacha
That
Baron
or those twins
Supergirl.
when they're jumping on the cars and shit reminds me of the Flash stuff too. Yeah, that's how old and bad it looks. You're right.
Yeah. There you go.
And
that is a great comparison, I think.
They could have just sat there and had 1 or 2 animators just tweaking some of the worst shit for the last year.
You just need to texturize. For
sake. Just kind of goes through and just kind of, okay, that looks bad. Let's work on that a little bit. Start there and just do minimal things here and there just to tweak it up a little bit. But that's what we heard is from between the screenings, they didn't mess with any of it, even though they had claimed they were going to. They did not.
I've got one last super chat here before we move on to the next topic. KN Kareen for $9.99 says, Culture, my favorite content creator, met Tom Cruise on the red carpet in Rome.
Oh wow.
He was so sweet to her. Such a big fan of Tom Cruise. I'll fight anyone who talks shit about him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a huge Tom fan. Tom knows I'm a Tom fan. Tom bought me a Tom shirt because I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. So there you go.
Whatever you think about him in his private life, he's doing good stuff with cinema. There you go. That's what I say.
He is cinema right now. I mean, he is cinema right now. There's nobody else doing it.
I'll give you that. And just sliding in now quickly, Mexican Iron Man. Nice to have you on, dude. For $5 says, FYI, I did not get a notification, and I'm a channel member and have notifications set to all.
I didn't either.
YouTube is so frustrating. It's a wank. It's a big old wank stain. It's not good.
Wow.
We got Nick from Echo Base Network sliding in here.
What is up, guys? Yeah, I'm
Nick.
freaking. I just got done with 2 work meetings and got some really bad news. I'll talk to you guys about it after the stream. It's
okay, all right.
really frustrating.
Okay, yeah, we'll cover that. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I've actually just got to cover just before we move on to the next topic. Sorry, guys, but we do have members of the channel. So if you want to support, memberships are a good way, and you get members super chats for sort of milestones once a month and stuff like that. So Finbar White has been a member for 28 months at supporter level 1, and says, "Hey, Mr. H and everyone, hope you're all well. Question: Before the Flash movie, could DC have signed Ezra Miller to a multi-movie deal? So we'll see him again.
Don't matter if they did. Yeah,
even if they have signed him, they can bin him off. The contract's in their court.
Yeah, it's an option based contract almost always, and unless
they have the option to pull him back.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead, Culture.
I was just going to say, unless there's an accelerator built in for a financial success, and then it's a different conversation. And most contracts aren't necessarily directly to DC like that. When they're structured that way, they're to Warner or whoever the main studio is.
And I was going to say, they learned their lesson a while back. In fact, it was a Batman movie that taught them one of these lessons, and that was with Billy D. Williams when Schumacher or whoever at the studio decided they didn't want Billy D to come back for Batman 3, he had a player pay.
Yep.
So he got paid for Batman Forever, even though he wasn't in the movie.
Jesus.
So there you go.
And Larry Quadowitz has been a member for 22 months at support level 2 and says, the stash is magnificent. I say you keep rocking it. Stash verse restored. I have no plans to keep rocking it, I can assure you of that. But I do appreciate the kind words on the caterpillar that sits upon my lip. Anyway. So let's talk about Nick. We've covered our thoughts on the Flash, but now we can all chip in here and talk about its monumental box office failure, which is, of course, the title of this video: why the Flash failed at the box office. And this is a huge failure. I said, I think it was my Sunday box office video that I do every single week. You want to stay up to date on the box office? I always cover the box office for the week on a Sunday, because the numbers are in, we can take a look at stuff, and based on projections and things, you can tell a lot. I said there and then, to which everyone else then began parroting elsewhere on Twitter, I think it was, and then it kind of went spiraling. This is a $300+ million loss for the studio. It absolutely is a $300 million loss for the studio. Easy.
Wow.
$300 million loss at the end of its run. This is what it will cost the studio. And do you agree? Do you disagree with that statement? My sort of projection on that, based on the conservative 2.5 multiplier of the $200 million budget, which is definitely more than that. It's been in the can for ages. There's financiers that have interest on these payments as well. So we're being very kind with the $300 million loss. 2.5 times multiplier. What do you think, Tom?
Well, it was funny because a few people were pointing this out yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because I was never told an exact number, but I was told by more than one source that this is, in so many words, the most expensive. Flash was the most expensive movie Warner Brothers ever made. Even more money. It cost even more money than Justice League, which was previously the most expensive movie Warner Brothers had ever made. So I wouldn't be surprised if this movie cost anywhere between $350, $375, maybe even $400 million to make or more. And at the end of the day, once you figure in P&A and all that kind of business, they'll be lucky to make that much back. Because that's another thing, is people, like with the Little Mermaid going on, Collider and all these other people are running interference from it. And the moment that movie made like $250 million at the global box office, they're like, it's profitable. It's profitable. It's like, no, it's not. In what world?
It's beyond me. I say this every single time when I do these videos, because there's always some dumb tit that walks in and goes, yeah, it's done 100 and whatever. The budget was only $200 million. What do you think happens to the money you paid the theater that you went to watch this fucking film in? What is wrong with you people?
Well, there's beyond that too, yeah.
Do you know what? Well, yeah, I know. Well, literally, just that part is important to cover first, though.
Right.
Because people seem to think that theaters just make money from nothing. They
from
don't
the
get
air,
any of that
yeah.
money. It's just they just get money from osmosis. Just you being there. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, you can almost just figure that the theaters keep roughly half anymore. It used to be less, but now it's like roughly half with the newer deals. Especially if a movie goes to streaming right away, they get 50% across the board. Yeah.
Yeah.
I say 50% is an average, because different markets have a different percentage value as well. So
that's the other thing. Yeah.
Just 50% is a good base mark across the whole globe, because like China's like 70%.
And then you should go another 25 there. And that's why I usually go anywhere from 2.5 to 3 times the budget is what you have to make on these movies, because you have the P&A, which generally doesn't get added into the budget. You have, like you just said, the theaters keep about 50%. Sometimes they bring even a hell of a lot less when it comes to the international box office, depending on which region you're talking about. Then you got to remember all the back end deals and other payout deals they have. Like here's a great example. Joker, one of the most profitable movies of all time. Guess what? Warner Brothers didn't get to keep very much of that money at all. After the theaters took their portion, Yep, they had back end
Actually,
deals
might do,
because they wanted to make it on the cheap. So, and all the other people that invested money besides Warner Brothers got a big chunk of it. So it really kind of sucks that that movie made a truckload of money and they only saw maybe a third of it.
Well, that's their own fault for making stupid deals, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
And that's
'Cause
why they're making sure
had
the
no
second one is
confidence
all
in
in
it.
house. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, they had no confidence in it, but it's not just that either, right? Like it's also, you know, what people fail to realize is that this one of the easiest things to Google to figure out how the marketing for this movie was insane is the average cost per 10 seconds to do an advert at the Super Bowl,
Right.
and then figure out times that versus what they released at the Super Bowl, an entire feature length trailer. Oh wow, fuck me, that was an expensive trailer. And then every other trailer that they released, like Jesus.
Well, I mean, you know, if it's a 1 minute thing, they paid $12 million. You know,
And that's just for one ad. Yeah.
yeah, and that's just one run, and they did it more than once in the Super Bowl. The first half they ran it once, but it. Look, I mean, we'll set that all aside. I always use the metric of 2.8 because it satisfies the people that are at 2.5 and the people that are 3 times. And China now is taking 20 to 25% and giving it back. Everything else is theirs, so they're keeping more than that 70% mostly. Nate, they're keeping like 75% of the box office receipts in China. But when you look at it overall, Tom's 100% right. The numbers have changed because the windows have changed. And that's also another reason why we're getting films that are underperforming, because their windowing is all screwed up. And I mean, we can get into all of that certainly, but with this particular film, it's not quite as bad as Shazam, but will it lose $300 million? Yes. I don't think this film.
Yeah.
I don't think this film pops anywhere close to what it needs to. I mean, you're looking at an opening weekend of 50 some million, and you add it all up. And Tom and I think did this earlier. You had an entire weekend with 3 films that opened this weekend. One with a budget of $5 million, it made $6 million. One with a budget of $200 million, it made nothing. The Elemental film was just trash
15, wasn't it?
It was not good.
Jesus.
And then you make 55 million with Flash.
It's less than that, actually. They came back. They lost $3 million. They screwed up the original amount. It made less than they thought.
So this is even worse. This is even worse. They had to grab the 4th day. They had to grab the 4th day.
But technically it's 5 days because that fucking on Wednesday.
That's
yeah.
true.
It's not even 4 days.
And
it's on a
don't
fucking Wednesday.
And don't forget, Nate, you had Mondays where it was showing nationwide in bigger cities. And I heard that the amount they made on that was not good either.
This movie is going to fall off a cliff this weekend.
Oh God, it's dead. It's dead already.
This is easily a $300 million loss for the studio. And what annoys me about this so much is then you hear all this bollocks on the back end of like, well, you know, the Flash director is going to now be directing Batman Brave and the Bold. What? Good decision. Good choice. Fucking, what are you doing?
Somebody leaned into that. I'm not sure if it was Tom on the Sunday night show, but maybe they didn't want to lose more talent at Warner.
That was me. I said I think that there's a reason behind this. Now, I don't believe he deserves this, but I think it's partially A, Warner Brothers wants to keep Andy in house. B, of all the directors and people that worked on the Warner stuff before, there's only been 2 names that have come up now that have previously worked on anything prior to this, and that was Ben Affleck, who said fuck no, he's not coming back, and Andy Muschietti. And Andy makes sense to me because him and James Gunn seem to have a very similar tastes. And not only this, I'm looking at it from the outside perspective. This movie has been just destroyed. So I'm sure that James sat Andy down and said, look, this movie's going to flop. We know it's going to be tough for you going forward, but we want to keep you home here at Warner Brothers. I'll give you one of the DC movies, or he said, we'll give you Brave and the Bold, whichever one, if he chose it, or he just knew that was the guy for the job, whatever. Now, again, I'm not saying he deserves it. I'm not saying he's going to do a good job, but I have a feeling that, and this is just my own personal speculation, that they looked at the situation and they said, look, Andy, we'll give you this movie as like a gimme because your Flash movie just got pissed all over, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that could be.
Because you got to remember,
their
this guy
way
did
to
the It
sort of
movies and stuff like that for Warner Brothers, and they're not
like
going to
$1
want to let
billion
him get
or
too far
something like
away.
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, and it's a way for him to solidify his future career in Hollywood. Because then he's guaranteed some more work,
Yep.
potential for good word of mouth again. But so, I mean, let's dive into why we think this movie actually failed, right? Because a lot of the companies, a lot of the mainstream media out there is suggesting that this movie failed because Ezra Miller wasn't available to do the rounds. No, that's the biggest brain dead dunce take I've ever heard, ever. And I've said it in many videos I've done about this now. Why on earth him not being around to do press is going to make people not want to see this film? No one knows who he is anyway. And if they don't know who he is, right? You go ask your mum, who's Ezra Miller? She's going to go, who? No one knows. But guaranteed, guaranteed your mother then goes, who is Ezra Miller? Oh, I'll give him a Google. Give him some Google. Video of him choking a woman out in Iceland. Headline, grooming 12-year-old. Headline, wanted in Germany for breaking and entering. Headline, felony in wherever he lives, breaking into a neighbor's house, stealing alcohol bottles.
Well, it's either Hawaii or Vermont, yeah.
Vermont.
It's a fucking good thing he wasn't doing any press tour. It was a good thing. And they're acting like that's the reason. Fuck off. Come on.
No, because they still got the Ezra questions. Even though I'm sure they pressured the media not to. They still asked everybody they could, basically, yeah.
What they should have done is paid Michael Keaton, because he's a consummate professional. He's been in the game for a very long time, right? A really long time. He knows how to navigate any of those questions. Any questions he gets about Ezra Miller, he'll know how to navigate. Get Ben Affleck to do it. He's a consummate professional, been in the game a long time, had awkward questions thrown at him about his alcoholism and stuff, and also his weird relationships. He'll be able to navigate that shit like that. Pay them. That's what they should have done, but they didn't, because they knew that they were dealing with a bomb, and they had to pocket as much cash as possible. That's my summary.
Yeah.
I don't think you're totally wrong, even though I have seen Michael out there do a few interviews and stuff. But that at the end of the day, I don't disagree with you. I think Ezra Miller was not the main issue. I think he was part of the problem. I think some of that had to start bleeding into middle America and the general public, because Michael Keaton was enough to get butts in the seats. That was a crazy part for me, is I thought for sure this movie, I thought this movie had the chance to at least open because of Michael Keaton, because that was one thing. There was during the Super Bowl thing is when I had quite a few of my normie friends start to realize certain things were coming, my family members, and I got quite a few messages that night. And Indiana Jones, I got a few on, but the big one was Batman's back. Michael Keaton's back. Did you see that? Did you see that? It's like, oh yeah, I've known about it for 3 years. And, and stuff like that. So to me, it was like, okay, so there is some hype around that part of it. Between then and now, something happened, and it clearly has to be that Ezra has permeated, because most people, don't give a shit or know about this whole regime change going on. That's another thing. That's more fresh news than the Ezra Miller stuff. That's been lingering for a long time. And probably less people know who James Gunn is than know who Ezra Miller is at the end of the day, most likely, depending on who you ask. And I don't think James Gunn's announcement had anything to do with this movie, because it's like, if there was any Snyder fans, they should have been supporting this movie. And as I got into a little bit of a spit with somebody on Twitter earlier that was trying to blame, Warner Brothers again for the Justice League. It's like, you can blame Warner Brothers all day you want for Justice League. The aftermath, yes. But leading into that, there's only one person to blame, and one person only. And that's Zack Snyder. People didn't go see the Justice League not because they knew he wasn't directing. They could give a fuck who was directing. They didn't go because they hated Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. That's why they didn't go. Then people just found out it was a bad movie anyway. That didn't help.
Why the wider
yeah,
absolutely.
Not wrong.
Yeah, I mean that's
now plenty of people in the audience here know it, and our crews knew it and all that kind of stuff. But You ask a normal person at that time who Zack Snyder was, and even still to this day, most of them won't know who the hell he is.
Yeah, again, I mean, this is the other problem too, is just how divided up the fandom became, just even in amongst, these different properties. I mean, having Snyder come in and create the Snyderverse is all well and fine if it works, but he wasn't Feige. He wasn't the people who got things started for Disney over at Paramount, which would have been Favreau, who really got the ball rolling. These are not, he wasn't a household name. So it's not surprising that you couldn't tell that guy from a hole in the wall. Same with Ezra Miller. But again, I'm gonna agree with you, Nate. Not knowing who Ezra Miller was and not having him do press was probably a favor for this film.
Seriously. Can you imagine just Googling him and watching that video of him slamming a girl out in Iceland?
It probably would have bombed even worse than it did if he would have been out there running around talking about it.
Can you imagine that?
Let me suggest this. It did not help that on the 16th, all of the trades, all of the Penske Media trades, which is Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and Variety, because they're all owned by the same company, they all did little bits and pieces on the fact that Ezra Miller was involved in a lot of alleged criminal activities and lots of misbehavior. I'm thinking that's not going to help promote the film, kids. That's going to get picked up by real papers. That's not good.
Well, I mean, I didn't even highlight all of it. Literally last year, was it this year or last year, when he was tearing around Hawaii? You had a greater chance of being hit by Ezra Miller than you did by a shark attack in Hawaii at that point in time. I mean, that's a genuine statistic. Like, you just Google his name and you're going to see a picture of his face because he had to zoom in for a court hearing in Hawaii. I mean, it's not a good thing because no one knew who he was. His profile was never boosted because of anything he's ever been in. He's not a household name. They were so stupid to give him his own movie anyway, but he's not a household name. And then he does all that random dog shit, which doesn't actually get talked about as much as it should have done because he's not a household name. But it means you can't promote him to be a household name because he did all of that stuff. Because then people will talk about it and then it'll tank your movie. I honestly, I think they knew that they were dealing with a bomb. They chose not to pay anyone to do the press tours because they could have, but they chose they chose not to, and they just were like, no. Like Tom said, this has been in the can for a while. They didn't want to pay any more money out. I think it's the same principle. They didn't want to pay any more money out, even for promotion, like based around getting people to do interviews. They were just like, nah, this is going to bomb anyway. Fuck it.
I actually thought before it even came out that just because Batman 89, Michael Keaton was coming back, that this thing would at least possibly have a good chance of breaking even. But this is bombed worse than I ever expected. I'm actually quite shocked. And a lot of people that are kind of in the same opinion space that we are generally, I saw that got early reviews and stuff of it, said it wasn't that bad of a movie. Now, I haven't seen it, but a lot of people that I watched that were trashing on it, saying this is going to be trash, ended up coming out and saying it actually wasn't that bad of a film. I actually liked a lot of it. It had some issues with other parts, but I really didn't see a whole lot of people just dogpiling on it. So in that case, also, I figured it would have a decent weekend. So when I saw that 55 million, I was like, wow, yeah, this thing's dead, absolutely dead.
But it's worse than you think, right? Because actually, it's 61.2 million for what they're calling is its 4-day debut domestically. Yeah. It's 5 days. It was out on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's a 5 days. It took $61.2 million. 5 days.
Yeah, it's definitely even worse than normal opening weekend for a film.
And it couldn't inflate a basketball. This is a real problem. I feel like the concern in the room should be how much are we writing this down for? How much of a write-off is this for us? Yeah, because it's not just going to lose the money we're talking about, right? It's going to lose more, and it's not going to be able to sell as much or to as large a price tag if it were going to go to HBO or to Showtime or to Netflix or to whoever, because Warner Brothers is back in the business of selling their content or, leasing it out for periods of time. Do you want this film on your pay channel? I mean, are you going to pay top dollar for it? Is this $100 million check you're going to write for 30 days? No.
But so why do we think this movie has not made money? Because I mean, I've countered the trade narrative, but why do we think it's bombing specifically? Do we think it's bad movie? Do we think it's bad superhero fatigue? What do we think the reason is, Nick?
I don't think it's superhero fatigue at all, because I guarantee you another Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and all them come out, I guarantee you it ends up making $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's bloated bad movie fatigue is what it is.
Yeah, exactly what Tom just said. Bloated bad superhero movie fatigue.
And it's not just superhero movies, it's extended beyond that, because we've only had one big movie make any money this year. One. Mario Brothers, that's it.
Yeah. Yep. And also the thing is with the whole this also happens in the whole Snyderverse stuff, which is already dead and gone. They're not continuing all that, so it's like, what's the point, anyways? A lot of people have already jumped off that train, and then a lot of people just don't like Ezra Miller. I mean, I think there's multiple things that contributed.
Well, before they even this is what I was trying to say. Before they even announced the reboot, they had driven the DC universe into the ground. Every movie before that had grossed less and less and less and less and less and less and less than the last one. That was going back to my point, all the way back to Justice League. This franchise went off the rails with BVS. We all know that. Aquaman and Wonder Woman were anomalies.
Yeah, I agree.
And Aquaman had the least, as far as like look-wise or anything like that, to do with the Snyderverse. Women just wanted to go look at pretty blue, Aqua lad.
True.
Dude. So at the end of the day, we can see how that's going to turn out, because we all know Aquaman 2 is going to fail. And it has little or nothing to do with the cancelization of this universe, because they have fed into this political scheme for a while now, and things just keep toppling down as we've been predicting. And I said the biggest, dumbest thing they could have done is announce this before Aquaman 2. They should have just held it and let it be a big rumor going around for the next year that James Gunn was taking over the universe. Or even if they announced it, they shouldn't have announced anything about any kind of reboots yet. Should have waited until after this shit was done. I don't think that's even a main factor, though. I still just think people are so turned off by the DC universe. They see these characters. It's all still in the same world, whether you want to blame Snyder, you want to blame Hamada. Don't matter who you want to fucking blame at the end of the day.
Can I say this? And because Tom, I think you're 100% right. But when you step back and you look at it from a wide lens, from a business perspective, there's more things going on here than as far as the colossal stupidity that you're describing, Tom. Just to add to what you're saying, Zaslav never should have made such a big deal out of rebooting it in the first place, or going out and doing that when he did, because he was doing it in service of the stock price. Then after Zaslav did that, Gunn never should have come out and done all of the things that you just described, because I mean it's a cascading onslaught of errors is what's happening, because by telling everybody these films are inconsequential, by talking about these characters the way that you are, you're creating a bigger problem. I mean, it just to add what you're saying, Tom, I'm just because now people know these things don't matter. They know they're not getting these characters back. They, despite the really strange ideas that people have that Netflix is going to take over Zack Snyder's stuff. Yeah, I don't know, Tom. Do you think that plays into it? Because this film failed for a multitude of reasons, but I don't believe it's superhero fatigue, and I think you're 100% right with it's big bloated movie. But I'm tired of long movies.
And that's where Mission Impossible does have to worry. And any upcoming blockbuster type movie does have to worry. I hate to say this, and this has nothing to do other than I know the audience that is waiting for this is going to show up, and that is the Barbie movie is the only one that I'm not worried about. Because people could be turned off by Mission Impossible simply because of the bloated, big, loud movie fatigue. Now, again, the only thing that has going for it is Tom Cruise. Top Gun was huge. Mission Impossible has been a franchise that's been on the upswing. So in that sense, it has, some things going for it.
Also got two other very good things going for it.
Yeah. What's that?
Hayley Atwell.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Well, she's
very good things.
She's a stunner.
Yeah.
She's a stunner.
Anyway,
add to that the fact that he got the most interaction out of one stunt, not even the most fantastic stunt in the movie.
Yeah.
In promotion of this film.
So did he just put that on? Was that a YouTube video or a Twitter video?
It was YouTube. Like? You can watch it on YouTube and you're losing your mind.
Actually, I think he filmed it for theaters because I think I saw that in one of the theaters.
It did play in the theater. You're right, Tom. But I can't remember before which film. But it's insane, right? It's insane because you can see it. You watch it on YouTube and you're like going, how many times did you do this? 17 times.
Wow.
They filmed it the first time. The other 16 were just for Tom's enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, I think, I think to sort of round it back round to it,
right.
like I think a lot of us have the same sort of viewpoint on this, right? Like Ezra Miller certainly didn't help this movie situation because they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. They can't promote it, they can't talk about it, etc. You then also have bloated movie situation, which creates issues because they're bad. CGI is an issue. I think people. I also think this fad of multiversal movies as well.
Yeah,
I don't think that's that interesting to a lot of people, quite frankly, because I just don't think that they are, and I think we'll see that play out with Marvel moving forwards. I think you saw a little bit of that, with what we've already seen. I don't think it'll do massively well. I think that's part of it, and I just think as well people are much more discerning about what they choose to go watch. We've seen that about cinema now. Because people have been thrown nonsense for a very long period of time, people are becoming more and more discerning about what they pay their money to go and watch. So they're more selective and they don't want to just go watch mindless drivel. They do in some parts because some mindless drivel is good fun, but that's when it's fun and it doesn't lecture you or do you know what I mean? Like they're sort of multifaceted, but I think this movie bombed for many, many reasons. But to say it bombed simply like the media has been saying, simply because Warner Brothers didn't have Ezra Miller do the rounds, is the biggest pile of bollocks I've heard in ever. So now we need to get to some super chats.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Sorry. We've got quite a lot waiting. We got quite a lot waiting, so we do need to get to them. Sorry. And there's some big ones here as well.
No.
So I'm not trying to be rude there, Culture, my dude.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Diano for £5 says new Mission Impossible supposedly cost 290 million. So how much does it need to make?
Did they shoot both of them at the same time, Culture?
Well, Is that part of that? I think they're rolling two budgets together with this. I think they're rolling two budgets in with this.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Yeah, I'm not 100%
though. I'll double check on it. But
because this is what him and Paramount had a big fight over, wasn't it?
That and the fight to release direct to streaming, and he obviously won that one out. Yeah, they wanted to do a film and they wanted to do a day and date, and Tom's like, no, we're getting a full theatrical window. That was obviously for Top Gun, but he was in a fight with them for the budget of this, and they fought on this budget for a lot of reasons. So
if I recall, not to interrupt, I thought they didn't want to film both movies at once. That's what my memory serves.
Well, I know that they were upset about the budget and how long it had been extended because they had so many delays. Consider this: the first film was delayed multiple times in due course because of the pandemic and because of some site location problems and some things like that. So could this have cost one of these films cost 290? Maybe.
I can believe that because they were adding an additional 25%. So
yeah, and is that the most expensive film this year? No.
No.
No, sadly, I think The Flash cost more. Yeah.
Well, how much would it need to make then? Let's just go off 200.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, using that number. Well, I mean, you're looking at if you want to use the 3.0, which is reasonable, 900 million, let's say, in
break even.
US dollars. Yeah, that puts you in that wheelhouse. I mean, it'll more than break even at 900 million. The question is that what they're aiming for? No, they're shooting for over $1 billion. They want to make about 150 to 200 million in profit on this film, and I think it's there because and also consider this: Tom is the last guy to have a back end deal contract. He's a first dollar contract, and those are unheard of now. Tom, there's nobody else that has those anymore, right?
Oh, I don't know about that. Like, that's one of the reasons I was kind of alluded to as to why the Flash had to be released is because of back end deals and stuff. They still exist, but it's usually for like, well, no, I think Ezra Miller and Ben Affleck and a few others had them too. But
first dollar deals, though, like Tom,
I don't know about first dollar deals. Like, that's a different story. Like, Tom has probably got one of the better deals, I'm sure, in that respect. But
I know one thing. These studios got to start coming up with ways to make these films for a lot cheaper,
less money. Yeah,
of a cost.
They're way too much money.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that you're making a movie, and after everything that the studio's putting into it, between production, marketing, all that comes with it, that you got to make
$100 million.
You know, $1 billion to turn out and make 100 million.
That's bad math, isn't it? It's bad math.
Yeah, I mean, who thinks that's a good idea and a good investment on their part?
That's why horror films do so well, because they just cost nothing.
But Nick, a lot of it for this particular film, Mission Impossible, comes off of the fact that the money was sitting around too long, and then they had to start paying interest on it and other stuff like that.
Finances.
Yeah, it always comes down to because if you know, you kind of know what you're going to make on a film when you make it, but when if circumstances work against you, now you're in a real fight, and they probably had to go back for money multiple times. To be
too bad they don't know how much they're going to lose when they're going to make it.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't understand their audience. I would argue that Tom Cruise absolutely does.
Yeah,
I agree.
No,
be on a rad for £2 says, so Warner Brothers Discovery is losing more money than Disney.
No,
between all Disney stuff, no way.
Well, this is a carryover, still part of it.
True, technically.
And another reason why that the budget is so bloated is that this also carries, and this is one of the things that happened to Superman Returns, because Superman Returns actually financially did pretty well in the box office, but the problem is that movie harbored all the costs for all the previous Superman projects all the way back to like Superman Lives that didn't get off the ground. It's the same kind of thing with the Flash. All the versions, the previous versions they never got to until this one, all the costs that went into those are being added into this, plus what this movie cost, and this movie was reshot so many times. Like, I'm not even sure if The Rise of Skywalker had this many reshoots, to be honest with you. Like, that's where we're at with this at this point. Like, we might have a new winner here on as far as that goes.
Do you think it had more reshoots than Indy 5?
Well, Indy 5, we got a pretty good idea of what they reshot. I don't think they reshot much more than the ending, because that's what it seems to be.
Well,
and now we've got more confirmation on that. But
we'll be touching on that. Mo Sislak for $50. This is one I was trying to rush to sort of, well, not rush to, but that's why I was like, oh, we've got some big ones to get to. Thank you so much. Everyone's super chat goes a really, really long way to supporting the show, helping me out as a creator. Like, super chats, everyone here will say that it's a big driving factor in supporting a YouTube channel, because YouTube's just a bitch. Half of you guys have not even been notified that we're streaming, right? So it goes a long way, because other videos don't get notified, etc., etc. Blah 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 blah. You don't need to hear the spiel, but thank you so much for people that do super chats. Basically, is the point. So for $50 says, let's have a little fun. Given the box office performance of The Flash, please speculate on the potential box office performance of The Marvels. Give us some juicy predictions. Also, nice Tash. Nate, very full Monty. That is not a reference. All right, cheers. Fine. All right, so The Marvels.
Oof. Man, after seeing this Flash opening weekend, man, golly.
And they moved it. Remember, they moved it from prime time to in between two big competitive movers as well, wasn't it? That was going to be up against it.
They windowed it in a hole.
I think it's going to really, really fucking bomb then, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
I'm going to say 45.
Domestic.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to say 60. No, do we know if it's opening up on a normal day? A Friday, perhaps? Not a Wednesday?
Hang on.
It matters.
It's probably it's probably a Thursday.
Fucking Tuesday, they'll count it as the bloody weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, the director's Nia DaCosta. Megan McDonald wrote this, and Nia DaCosta. Yeah, this thing's screwed.
The Marvels isn't going to make jack squat.
It opens November 10th, 2023.
So it is a Friday. So they'll probably
perform probably
like
about as well as
showing
Shang-Chi or something like that. Sorry. Go ahead,
so it'll have Thursday night previews. So it'll be a 4-day weekend. You put it at what, 45 million? Was that right?
Yeah, I'm saying 45.
I'm going to say 55 million because I'm going to say 55. Wait to 85, and the reason with such a broad gap is because Disney's been known to do some very interesting things with stuff.
Oh, you like buy tickets themselves?
Give it they give them to charities, and then the charities give them out, and etc. So I'm going to say that I'm going to be a broad stroker and say 55 to 85 million.
That's actually a good point, and I didn't factor that in.
You have to. Come on now.
Yeah.
You did.
I completely forgot about their shenanigans on when it comes to that. The true
indicator.
I'm gonna bump mine up to 65.
I was going to say the true indicator of whether they're going to do that this year will be Indiana Jones.
Oh yes, and we don't have much longer to wait on that. And word of mouth on that is not good anywhere.
but that'll be telling of whether they're going to play silly buggers.
Yeah,
moving forwards on stuff,
100%.
They don't have the money.
They've already left the review embargoes for Secret Invasion literally the day before it's going to be released, because that's
it's utter trash.
And it's terrible. People hate it because it's released tomorrow, but people hate it. So that's already, I think they'll play silly buggers. So I'm going to say 85 million. Culture.
Is this on an open or because the open's going to be different than the full performance? Full performance.
Let's just do open.
Okay. So the open is going to be sitting at about. Let me do some quick math. Global.
We can do global. I was just doing domestic.
Oh, domestic. Okay, U.S. domestic, North American domestic. I think you're in the right wheelhouse. I think you're looking at about 85. I think, based on if you want to put it in the same wheelhouse as like Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumanium, which was a terrible, colossal flop. I think that's going to give you global box office at finish around 420, 425.
Okay. God, that'd be bad for this, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think those are the right numbers. Yeah.
That'd be real bad. We got some members as well. Sorry. So C. Kramer has been a member for 20 months at support level 0. Thank you. 0.5. Thank you so much. And Donovan Bradford has been a member for 25 months at support level 1. Says, and where was Grace Randolph on this film not making it to Friday? Oh dear. So quick blitz through some of these other super chats here. So we got, I can't say this name, Jarrett Doshio.
Doshio, yeah, that's what I think so.
Jarrett Doshio. I don't know.
Jarrett Doshio.
I don't want to butcher you. Yeah, I feel bad. For $5, says The Flash has to literally be the biggest flop this century. I think it's lucky to make $350 million global. It's not. I don't think it'll be the biggest flop this century, but it's certainly a huge flop, a massive flop.
Yeah.
Now we've got 3 super chats in quick succession, so we'll get through them all because they're all from the same person. I don't really know what you're referring to. So Gary for £10, each one are for £10, says, "What the fuck is happening with Zendaya's new movie, Challengers? hey, I love Tom, but I've liked her before he got with her, so I wouldn't mind seeing her do a Basic Instinct style movie. Wait. People are calling Tom Holland a cuck, but if I was with an actress, I wouldn't mind because it's part of the job, unless she liked it too much or it was a real XXX scene. What I have a problem with, that's what I mean by wait, is she says I take care of my little white boys in slightly off way. It makes me think it's woke racist against white people crap. What? I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, okay, so Zendaya's in a new film based on tennis called Challengers.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's basically a tennis movie, and she plays a seductive tennis star, and she ends up in a love triangle. And again, I mean, this doesn't surprise me because of Euphoria, but yeah, she gets very spicy reportedly. The trailer, I think, released today.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
that's fairly standard, like sex selling stuff,
yeah.
isn't it? I don't see what the issue is. It's not Tom Holland's not a. I mean, she's an actress. That's literally her job. It's
Yeah,
not like she's got an OnlyFans on the side where she's fucking flicking her bean and stuff, is it? Like, come on.
yeah, she's not. Yeah, she's not showing her beehole. But the film's not due out until mid-September. So, I mean, your guess is as good as mine on any of that. So,
Well, apparently people are saying Tom Holland's a cuck because she's doing her job.
I don't
know anything about any of it.
Yeah,
I'm just. This is as much as I know as well, Nick. Like that's. I don't know anything.
Look. I mean, she's been doing Euphoria. I mean, it's like I'm not. You're not getting. I'm not.
She's not doing anything. This is the thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's different just sitting on a fucking dildo and filming yourself on your phone and posting it on OnlyFans. It's a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you're not Jack Murphy.
Stimulate it. Yeah, I don't see what the big issue is. I don't see how Tom Holland is a cuck. Anyway, there you go. That's as much as I can give you information on that, Gary. My thoughts, bud. Doug, VA Loves Horror for $4.99 says Merman 2 might as well come out next month. Push that turd right on out. Yeah.
We're doing some more reshoots.
You are right, actually. You might as well just get it gone, to be fair. You might as well. Just get it over with and reboot. Like as big a distance from the end of the old DC to the start of the new as possible. That is a good thing. Because then you wash everyone's taste out of the mouth and they can. That is actually a good idea. Give it a wide berth. Get it out as soon as possible. I think personally.
Yeah. Get that grumpy out of the way.
Yeah. Don't put no more money into it. Just get it ready to throw it out there.
Yeah, 100%. Just get it gone. Last super chat before we move on to our next topic, which you guys are gonna love. Jason Dugdale for £10 says studios should do singular movies. Spider-Man fights his villains, Batman fights his villains, etc. Then every few years, get them all together like Justice League Avengers. I agree. Yeah, I agree. This constant teaming up nonsense. No, just get them to do. Not everything has to be interconnected all the bloody time. Just stop it.
Well, and it robs the proper rogues gallery, right?
Oh yeah, massively.
I mean, yeah, and it really undervalues the individual performance of each superhero and how they have to go about resolving issues themselves. You know, and I mean, we got proper introductions for a few of the main Avenger characters, right? The only one that we were glowingly missing was, Black Widow. And when they finally delivered that, it was 6 years too late. So F them.
Well, we had her kind of introduced here and there. I think we had her introduced enough to make people go, what a great character.
Yeah, but I mean,
would you have had a solo movie? Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Something I was going to say. Oh, yeah. 626 people. Smash that thumbs up button, guys. Hit that thumbs up button. We've got loads of you watching. This is good viewership. So we do these streams every Tuesday and Thursday. Same time. Starts at 9 p.m. UK time on Tuesday. 7 p.m. slightly earlier UK time on Thursday. But if you miss this stream, in the description box, there's a link to a channel called Mistakes Reviews Live Archives. Hit subscribe on there. This stream will go up there in its entirety. It doesn't go on the main channel anymore. and then this will get clipped and chopped into the best bits and individual topics and stuff. So check that out down below. And everyone else's channel here. So Culture Casino is Culture Casino. Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. And then Nick, obviously it says Echo Base Network, but really he's actually the king of the chill streams. He has an OnlyFans called King of the Chill Stream.
Yep.
He doesn't, obviously. That's fucking weird. But hit subscribe on everyone's channels down below. You guys will love it. And you know who I am. So whatever. Anyway, so next topic. Do we guess? We're talking about Batgirl. Because of course we are. Why wouldn't we be? Because there's more behind the scenes stuff. Love it. They're so good. It's such a controversial. So basically, what's the story of Batgirl? Just as a quick recap.
Oh, the
Just
one
be
they
careful.
canned
We
and never
just took them
released.
down from Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be careful.
Have they?
Yeah.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Gary
anyway.
from Nerdrotic shared like 3 images last night, and all 3 of them got pulled down by.
Well,
the
they've been shared by
Twitter
everyone
bots
else.
and-
So
Yeah, I
we'll get to them in a minute. But basically, what's the short of this? It had test screenings. Everyone in the show media said, "Oh my god, it's what a triumph! We love this." I did a video because I had a source and said it bombed, and everyone goes, "Mr. H, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have sources. Who the fuck are you?" Not like I've been doing this for 7 years, and I've been proven right on every time. Anyway, and then they shit canned it like a month later, and I was vindicated.
If it
And
was
then
so
everyone
good,
cried out.
yeah, why would they have done that?
Exactly. And then everyone cried out 1,000 tears. Oh no, Batgirl's gone. And there's a very strange contingent that really wants to see Batgirl for some bizarre, strange reason. I don't know why. And it looks like all of this stuff is coming from the directors, actually. Because a lot of this stuff, Warner Brothers Discovery's binned it off as a tax write-off. This is absolutely the right decision to do. Why would you release this lump of shite, especially when you've just released The Flash? It's super, super dumb. Of course you were going to bin it off. But then it looks like because the directors came out and was like, well, we tried to find it and it was been deleted off of the group server. Yeah, good. Don't try and steal the movie. You've been paid.
Because I knew you were going to try and do that. Yeah.
Like, that's literally theft. And then everyone else is like, oh, Leslie Grace, oh, Brendan Fraser. Everyone got paid. Shut up. Literally, everyone got paid. Michael Keaton reportedly got paid was it $10 or $20 million for his
10, I think it was,
film?
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally like 10 minutes in this movie. So don't cry. Everyone's bank balances are very fat.
Fine.
All right. Very, very fat. But anyway, the directors have seemingly just revealed loads and loads of behind the scenes stuff. And I can say confidently that it is the directors, because in the video I did earlier on my channel, which I'm not going to show the video of here now, because I think that'll be one of the key things that flags up, aside from the images, because they'll be able to auto it on a system, is a behind the scenes clip of the 2 directors introducing themselves and then going, Michael Keaton's here as well, basically. It's the most cringeworthy piece of crap you've ever seen in your life. It's awful. And I think they've been releasing this footage, basically, this behind the scenes stuff. So what is it? Well, here we go. Leslie Grace in the cathedral type thing. Cool. And everyone's like, oh, again, stuff like this. Like, who took this? It was clearly him.
Yeah.
Clearly he took it. Why? Because his hands are outstretched. Obviously.
Selfie.
Yeah. Oh, and there's some more behind the scenes stuff. And everyone's like, oh, it looks so good. So?
It's the same suit he was wearing in The Flash. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
But it also...
So they got him in the tower from 1989 Batman. Ooh, cool. Or try to look like that anyway.
But also, that doesn't make a good movie. There's
Right.
many facets to a good movie. One being a bit, a reasonable budget, which the budget spiraled out of control. But they definitely wouldn't have had a good amount of CG to make Michael Keaton move like they did in The Flash.
Which was another one of my complaints I didn't even bring up. Right? Was
Wait.
yeah.
I actually remember something that it was actually funny in The Flash.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It ended.
Well, no, but you see the cowl that he's wearing?
Oh, that bit did make me laugh with
Yeah.
the young Flash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
But again, it's an Easter egg joke because if you've only heard Michael Keaton bitch about not being able to twist his head in the superhero turn thing. Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But everyone just, I mean, look, I just think this solidifies that this was crap, to be fair. This doesn't make it look good in any way, shape, or form. None of this makes me like excited to watch this movie.
Well,
No,
no, and
good.
Not to jump ahead because I know you said you wanted to bring up the Kevin Smith thing, but Kevin Smith is part of the problem with this, right? Because he keeps talking this shit up, and because he's recently brought to the table this whole thing about the Schumacher cut. To me, that thing felt like planned PR. Because first you get the story out there that, oh yeah, I've seen the movie, and now they're promoting this whole screening of it. We're gonna see this movie by the end of the year, kids. The Batman Forever Schumacher cut. So what these directors are trying to do is drum up interest in this. This is no different than the Snyder movement or the Suicide Squad movement, the Ayer cut movement, whatever you want to call it. I mean, to me, that's what they're trying to do. But guess what? Warner Brothers is never going to release this movie, and you can tell them why, Culture.
No, they physically can't, though.
Right.
They cannot.
allowed.
The minute they do a write down, this thing no longer can appear anywhere ever in the history of man, unless they somehow reverse what they did tax wise. This thing will never see the light of day in any form, in any fashion, not one frame.
That's why what these guys are doing is really, and it is these guys.
It's sketchy.
It's really shitty. Not just sketchy. It's really shitty because it's. I don't think that they should never get work ever again, because any other studio is going to look at this and go, well, one, they were basically trying to steal stuff, so that's not good. Secondly, they're riling a fan base up against us. They're like, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to get work now. It seems like what a weird hill to die on. This is the hill you chose.
Well, they're not helping their case, right? Because these are the guys behind the Marvels and Miss Marvel. I don't think they have anything to do with basically. Yeah. Well, they were I think they weren't they the showrunners or whatever.
Oh,
anyway, either way, this is a bad move for them. I think they're finally what they should have done is just move past this and forgot this, because at the end of the day, when this does, because this probably will leak out in some form, and it's going to piss Warner Brothers something off awful. But when it does finally leak out, people are going to go, oh, because what I was talking about with Kevin Smith, because he was talking about this movie, because he was talking with these directors, and he was also talking up the whole Michael Keaton thing, because he was trying to promise a Batman Beyond movie. This is the Batman Beyond movie, guys. I've been trying to tell people this for how long now, Culture? Because we were one of the first ones to report that this was part of the plan. Little did we know that they didn't, because Hamada didn't want to do a Batman Beyond movie.
Oh,
that's so dumb. They should have done anyway.
So this is the closest we were going to get to it.
Yep.
Yeah. They're selling you a bill of goods that was not going to happen.
Yeah, and it was not going to be Batman centric at all. It was, again, 10 minutes of work for him. So you got 10 minutes of what would have been Batman Beyond.
Yeah, because I was told he was in this less than he was the Flash. Yeah.
Yeah, just like we got 3 minutes of Flashpoint in a Flashpoint film.
Yeah. I mean, I remember releasing loads of information on this back, because I had, again, someone who was at the test screening. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yes, Bayona is right. It's Batman Beyond, but replaced with Batgirl, basically, instead of Terry.
Yeah, so I released this. I released an exclusive, like a 9-minute video, July 1st, 2022. So literally a year ago, and that was to counter everyone else, right? So literally a year ago. So they're really tactically doing this. Literally, basically a year ago to this, to this day, they had the test screenings, and it all came out that it was really positive and stuff. And so then I released the video saying, "Yeah, Batgirl is a mess. She's a Mary Sue." And that was literally the title: "Batgirl is a mess and she's a Mary Sue." Test screenings exclusive. And I'll leave it in the chat for anyone that wants to see it.
Well, there was more
And
than
I
one reason
revealed-
why this movie got removed, but go ahead. Sorry, Mister.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so it's in the chat now. If anyone wants to go watch it in a minute, please do go watch it. And I revealed loads of stuff in there. And I did a follow-up video as well, saying, Insane Mess directors had no idea how it was a multiverse movie either. They just didn't know what they were doing. And then literally a month later, the title of the video was "LOL, I was right. Batgirl will not be released at all."
Yeah, that was one of the few things that got past me.
Everyone was commenting, going, "You're fucking, you're talking about everyone." Everyone says they loved it, and I'm like, just fucking wait.
Yeah, I'm surprised that one was one of the few scoops that got past me, was the Batgirl getting canceled. I mean, I had heard that it was trouble, but that was just it. It's one of these movies where you look at it, it's like, why are you doing this? Well, we know why they were doing this, because the other reason besides the tax write-off that this got canceled is because they were cutting off the MCU or the DCU. Because what was going on was the flashpoint leading into this was they were setting up Supergirl to go forward. We weren't going to have any more Henry Cavill. And then this Batman was going to pass the baton on to Batgirl. And then the three main leads of the DC universe going forward were going to be Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Batgirl, and Supergirl.
Yeah, Warner Brothers was going to give you
with Aquaman and the Flash backing them up. Sorry.
No, but you're right, Tom. The Warner Brothers was going to give you the A-Force before Marvel gave you the A-Force.
Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. So, but this is a weird, just to kind of round it out, because we could probably just talk about this for ages, but honestly, it's not actually that interesting. This is the weirdest hill for these directors to die on, because mark my words, all of this is coming from the directors, and it is just from simplistic, like just that alone.
I can see why. Look, I'm not going to stick up for them, but like they're in this precarious position where this movie being canceled is kind of a smite on them. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think it is though. I think they'd already worked for Marvel. I think they could have just.
No, I get you. I get you, Nate. But for them, I'm sure that's what it is. It's a narcissistic thing. It's a
that's it.
It's more of, you can't see this thing from me, and people are saying it was canceled because it's a bad movie. I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm better than that. I can't let that be the end of this thing. Like that's their problem. And they seen what they thought was a success with the Snyderverse revival with Justice League and all that kind of stuff. So that's 100%. Where they're kind of trying to relive their glory of this thing in some way, that trying to vindicate themselves or whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
100%. So we'll just get us some more super chats real quick, guys, before we shuffle on. So again, thank you so much. I want to take this moment. I didn't know how taking a break. I never wanted to take a break from the podcast. For those that don't know, because we've got 600 people here, we had a 2-week break from the podcast because I competed as a bodybuilder. For those that don't know, real quick, flash, gone, done. I lost a whole bunch of weight. I lost weight. I didn't gain any. Went from 95 kilos to 83. Stood on a stage looking like Mr. Tangerine. And it was a real good time. I never wanted to do it. That was my last time ever competing. Blah, 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 blah. There's a video on it if you go watch it if you want. But we took a break from the podcast. I didn't want to take a break from the podcast, but I did. And I was worried that we'd come back and it would just be no one watching. So thank you so much for coming in, joining the podcast, again, enjoying the podcast, and just coming along for the show, enjoying the conversation, joining the conversation as well. It means a lot. Genuinely means a lot. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to everyone else here on the panel. I don't need to say it. I'll say it on their behalf because I know these little heart-to-heart moments and all this kind of nonsense. But I'll say it on everyone's behalf because I know everyone else here will be genuinely appreciative of everyone's viewership as well. There you go. Anyway, and also hit thumbs up. So super chats. Mecca J for $5 says, what do you think of Samuel L. Jackson's recent comments defending Brie Larson and calling them critics toxic incel dudes who hate strong women? I think he's a bit of a douche, to be fair, for saying all that.
What's funny is I have a video coming out on that tomorrow.
Well, there you go. So hit subscribe, and then you'll be able to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it
it's
doesn't
just
hit.
dumb.
It doesn't hit well. Let me suggest this: that it was edited, very highly edited, out of context interview question from Rolling Stone. That's what I'm going to suggest here, especially in the way it's being covered.
Hopefully.
Yeah, especially the way it's being covered by the trades. But yeah, and
He has said some dumb shit recently. though.
yeah,
He
he's
has said
getting
some dumb shit.
he's getting older. Maybe he and our current occupant of the Oval Office are hanging out too much, or
Because didn't he say something about Quentin Tarantino as well?
he yeah, things happen. So
This is what I mean. He has said some dumb shit recently that makes you go, "What the?"
I didn't hear
What
him
the
say
fuck?
anything about Tarantino, but yeah, I saw the thing about Brie and her TDS.
Yeah,
breakdown.
just weird comments. And say that anyone criticized blah blah blah. No, shut up, Mr. Jackson. Shut up. That's all I can say to
If
that.
anything, well, I remember there was something he did kind of make a crack on Tarantino, I think last year or something like that.
Yeah, this is what I meant.
And I
think he
remember
did.
saying something about like, yeah, because now I do remember saying, "Why are you doing this? This is the guy, the
Yeah.
reason you have a career, dude."
Yeah. I
Like,
guess I
yeah.
distinctly remember there was something about it. Distinctly remember. But without a direct quote, I don't want to labor it too much.
Yeah, you can't. To me, I have a hard time believing any kind of racist nonsense about Tarantino when the argument is Samuel Jackson. He should know
Yeah.
he was playing like
Well,
robber
and
number
sex-
3 and shit like that in movies before Tarantino. That was a problem.
and sexist comments as well. Like Tarantino, not remotely misogynistic, not remotely sexist, produced some of the best strong females out there in
Absolutely.
in Hollywood movies. So it's such fucking bollocks. Anyway, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson's comments on it, weird. He's been saying some weird things lately. He needs to drink some tea or something. I don't bloody know.
And I think part of this comes out of the in the Secret Invasion, because I guess there's some race storyline that goes in there with him and Brody or something like that.
yeah,
Or-
they're leaning into the messaging pretty hard, and the critics are hating it. So does it surprise me? No.
Which I find is dumb to even try to bring up any kind of oppression in a story where Samuel Jackson is playing the head of one of the most covert operative.
Yeah.
Like in the
Literally
world.
like a secret government, basically. Like
Basically,
a shadow
but on
government
itself,
sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we shuffle on to these last few. So Facutino, something like that, 93 for $4.99 says, "Hello, Mr. H. What will be the bigger bomb? Flash, which you genuinely loved, or Indiana? Will KK finally be fired if it flops?"
I think I have an answer to this. I'm curious what you guys think, though. I think Indiana Jones will do a little bit better at the end of the day, and I'll tell you why. Because of both of these, I was surprised when my dad, of all people, said that because he goes, "I saw a preview. I wanted to see a movie coming out here the other night," and I was waiting for him to say that new Michael Keaton Batman movie because he loves the original Batman. And sure as shit, he goes, "No, I want to see that Indiana Jones movie," and I'm like, "What?" And I mean, of course, after thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, of course he does, because my dad's the same damn age almost. Of course he wants to see Indiana Jones running around. He doesn't know anything about this crap, like we do. And I'm just going, God, why would he want to see this? And I'm like, did you even see the last one? He's like, I think so. So that's what I mean. I think there's a part of the audience they're not paying attention to that might go see Indiana Jones, that also went to go see like Top Gun and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be nearly in that amount. It's still going to bomb. It's going to bomb at the end of the day. But I think that Indiana Jones will just do a little bit better than The Flash. Because there's some people who are just not going to give a crap about the stuff that's Indiana Jones the way we do.
So I'm going to agree and disagree with you, Tom. There will be more money will go. More people will go watch Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
absolutely. But it's got a bigger confirmed budget, so it'll be a bigger fucking flop for sure.
Does it though? That's my big question here. We know that was 300 million, but I think it's roughly the same as The Flash. That's the difference. I think.
But the $300 million is based So what are we basing it on? Because the $300 million loss for The Flash was based on the released figure of $200 million. we're not doing it based on the 350 million dollars.
That's true.
That we think. You see what I mean? So what we know that they've spent on Indiana Jones, is higher than what we know they've spent on The Flash. So I'm just basing it on that by my sort of disagreement counter. But I agree I basically agree with you, if that makes sense. It was just a small counter.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, I didn't even think about that factor. You're right. It'll probably make more, but at the end of the day, it'll profit less because of that. You're right.
I see Culture stroking his Merlin beard.
I think that
so close. Just bloody building it up.
I think Indiana Jones 5 will actually still qualify as a flop. I don't think it'll reach profitability. I think it's going to lead to further harm at Disney. I'll suggest that while it may not eliminate KK outright, I think that it's kind of the writing on the wall. There's not much left at Lucasfilm for her to destroy at this point. Unless she goes ahead and just completely eliminates the audience for any of the Disney minus shows. So, whether or not she'll be fired, that's not the way things are done at the studio level. Look, when you watch her go on, and Tom can and maybe Mr. H and others can probably back me up here, but when you see her go on an awards tour where she's being gifted awards all over the place, then you'll know she's on her way out the door, because that's what happens before they shuffle you onto an ice floe and kick you into the ocean. So it's not a firing per se. It's a, hey, thanks for working for us for so long. Here's your gold watch. Yeah, and that's not. But it's not like when you get fired from the mob. But she's I still think this is going to be a huge flop. As far as a bigger flop than The Flash, comparatively, no, it'll make a little more than The Flash does. But I don't think it's going to break even, and I don't think there's any profit there. So take your pick. They're both a flop, but which will flop more? Probably The Flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Ultima Bendesen for $5 Canadian.
Cool.
Says, couldn't Warner Brothers rework the Batgirl footage into a 1-hour comedy special show, being self-aware of how bad it is? Yes, but that would still cost quite a lot of money, of which they definitely don't want to do. No. Garfield. Oh, it's not like got it slow today. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure for $5 says, I recently rewatched Batman Beyond and it holds up very well. It deals with an aging Bruce Wayne in a respectful way, and Terry McGinnis is likable. I really like Batman Beyond. I always have. I think it's fantastic. It follows Batman the animated series. To me, is the definitive Batman. Like, I really like Batman the animated series. I think Batman the animated series is absolutely staggeringly good, impeccably great. And I think Batman Beyond does follow that up very, very well. I think if you were to watch them back to back, you'd be like, oh, the animation's a little bit better, a little bit, better, subjective. I mean, improved or sort of modernized. But I think all of it pushes itself into a nice. I like it. I like them both. I think they work very, very well together. And I've always wanted a Batman Beyond movie. I think makes sense to do that, but also doesn't in some way, because they don't want to age out their primary dollar earner Batman. But I don't know, always seemed to be a good way to do if you're going to be doing a super
maybe you would screw up Batman
movie
as far as Batman's popularity, if you think about it. Like, they've been able to recover Spider-Man because Spider-Man was headed down a slippery slope there for a bit, but they managed to pick him back up. Batman, on the other hand, when you've got the last, let's see here, 3 movies I think now we've had where Batman is a primary character, or pretty much, if you don't count the Justice League. If you want to count the Justice League 4 now, that have underperformed or flat out bombed.
God,
and I know people are going to be like, well, the Batman made money. The Batman was also expected to make $1 billion. I know people are like, no, they didn't. Yes, they did. You can
all of
pretend they didn't want. They can say what they want in the press, but that movie disappointed because they were expecting it to make $1 billion.
all of these movies, they want $1 billion now, or it's just staggeringly high. For God, anyway. The Icelandic Filipino sent 300 something. I don't know what that is, buddy, so I do apologize. Indiana is a bigger flop because it's a bigger IP. Yeah, it's more to trash.
If you're counting it as the Flash, yes, that's fair. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
More to trash. And then we've got a great, incredible member milestone from Ellie Moses. For 28 months at supporter level 1. And even he says, damn, 28 months. Love this podcast type panel. It is indeed a podcast. Can listen all day. Hope everyone is well. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you guys enjoy it. Like I said in my little heart to heart. I'm glad you're all back here watching. After
That's a fun
hiatus.
stream. It's a fun stream.
As opposed to your chill stream.
Chill stream. Yeah.
Oh dear. Right. So yeah, we have one more topic to go into here, which is all about, again, the DCU. Again, Blue Beetle director confirms the movie is part of DC Studios' wider plans for the DCU, which we didn't we sort of knew, but sort of didn't know. You know, it was kind of up in the air because they said James Gunn implied that the DCU kicks off with Superman Legacy, didn't he? Basically, but apparently no.
That's a misleading title, though, because I know I watched the interview they're taking this from. No, his specific words were Blue Beetle is the first character in the new DCU, but Superman Legacy is the first movie. Now, how else can you interpret that other than basically if Blue Beetle does well and or we want to bring the character back and I want to use Sholo to play the character, that's going to happen. But if I decide I want to change anything as far as canon that happens in that movie, tough shit. Because after that point, once, and I've been telling people this for the longest time, Superman Lives is a flat out reboot of the DCU. We're going to have almost a year and a half or better between the last DC movie and when that movie comes out. And like I just pointed out in the chat, the Batman 2, I don't know if you've heard anything, Mr. H, but I've heard they barely just got in under the gun with the Penguin. And I've been hearing for a long time that the Batman 2 is predicated. No, I heard it actually got pulled off. They got the filming pulled off, I heard, from somebody close to the production.
Oh, okay.
But the Batman 2, I heard, was predicated on how well that played out on HBO Max regardless. That's also been delayed again. So if you look at it this way, by the time we get to the next Batman movie, if the Batman 2 gets canceled, it will have been 3-4 years since we've had a Batman movie and stuff. So they might need this break after this in general. And Marvel's going to have a little bit of a break too, because there's a patch where they don't have any movies after I think, what was it, the last one? Captain America 4, that was the last one done with Falcon. I think it was the last one done. If not, somebody correct me in the chat or on the panel here.
There's a new one with
They're in the middle of shooting. They're in the middle of shooting Thunderbolts, but that's going to get delayed, I think.
I think it's shut down already.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that Captain America 4 at all.
I don't think anybody is. But anyway, sorry, I got a little off track there. But yeah.
No. Well, I mean, I think the gap between I think the gap between the old DC and the new DC is a good thing. I think have as far a gap between this stuff so you sort of wash people's taste, the bad taste out of their mouth. I mean, the stuff that he says, like obviously you sort of said some of it as well. He says we're part of the universe, we're part of the world, we're part of the plans that they have been creating for the future installments of the DCU, but we're not tied to all the films from the past. I mean, that's so bizarre and intentionally vague, isn't it? I guess it goes with what you were saying. Yes, our movie lives in the world where superheroes exist, but that doesn't mean that a certain event or certain alliance or certain things from the past dictate where our films is going. And so you had him down as basically saying, reiterate it again, Tom?
He said Blue Beetle is the first character in the new DCU, but Superman Legacy is the first movie in the new DCU.
That doesn't make any sense then.
No, I know, it's wishy-washy politic talks. Yeah. God. Or however you want to call it. Yeah. Waffling, whatever. Yeah.
It's just well, you know what though, don't you, right?
What's that?
Anyone? Well, Batman's a fascist, right? So,
Well, that's in that movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that line.
yeah. Well, he's a fascist. So, I mean, this movie's going to be a massive success and everyone's going to go watch it. And it'll definitely be in the future DC, won't he? Of course he will.
I don't even know who Blue Beetle is. And I used to read comic books, so
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. Culture? You just try
and I on top of that, I always was under the understanding that Blue Beetle was part of this whole same universe from when I first heard about it. So unless
was
they
supposed
just
to be.
changed it, yeah. So,
It's
so
supposed to be an HBO Max one. That's why it's got no
Yeah.
reference to anything else because they couldn't afford it initially.
all right.
Well, real
Oh,
quick,
yeah.
Blue Beetle is not going to do well.
Of
The
course it's not.
Come
Come on, Culture.
well, they could. I mean, it's not going
It's
to do
gonna
well.
do $1 billion.
It's not going to do well. Culture,
Well,
come on.
The beauty
That's
of
like
the
the
Blue
most
Beetle movie
obvious
is
thing
we
you
said
can
earlier is
say.
it doesn't have to do a shit ton, right? It only costs I think 100 million to make,
90 million.
90 million to make, something like
Oh
that.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was set up for HBO Max, Nick, and just like Batgirl was, and the fact that they kept it tells me a couple things. A, it probably is mostly harmless to decent. B, I've heard it's more in tone and vein of like Shazam anyway, so it's fun. C, I heard it had originally no attachments to the DCU, or whatever attachments were there
That's
have
what
been
I heard.
removed. So there you go. So like at the end of the day, this movie can kind of exist on its own. And Culture will be the first one to point out, along with myself and Paulie, that the Latino audience is very underserved. Right.
Yeah,
If there's anybody who has a room to gripe about not being represented on screen, that is the one group that does, because they consume more entertainment than anybody else outside of white people, and they are the most underrepresented on screen.
Yeah. I mean, so
But the thing is, they don't give a shit. They just want to watch something fun, right, or good, or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the annual report, right, the annual theme report at the end of the year, which tracks all of the stuff, demographics, men to female, ethnicity, et cetera, age brackets, all that. When you look at that at the end of the year, it actually breaks it down that almost every cinema of the top 10 films, let's say, almost every single cinema performance that you could have during a given year is over-indexed with Latino audience members by well over their
Or Latin, I think we should say. I think is because Latino would mean male, I think. But yeah. Or am I wrong? Mikey, correct me. You're my
okay. Well,
my
anyway,
Mexican Iron Man. I don't know.
ethnicity wise, the Latin audience over indexes.
Do better.
Yeah, sure. Over indexes substantially in comparison to their actual demographic numbers, and they are critically underrepresented in film. And even when they try to put a Latin character in play, oftentimes it's not. It's something mixed with that race. It's never an actual just Latin character. So they really do a very poor job in representation when it comes to that demographic.
Or it's Michael Pena.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, I guess that's two minorities in one, though. I mean, you get Michael Pena plus Scientology.
Well, I will say I had heard good things about this. Like, I think I did like a test screening reaction video. Not my reaction, a source's reaction to this as well. And they said it was decent, but I just don't think it's going to do, like, I wasn't mocking you, Culture, but as I laughed at your statement, the obvious statement of this isn't going to do well, I'm like, yeah, fucking, of course it's not. No, I still don't think it's going to do very well.
It's the only one that's kind of a wild card, though, if you think about it.
It is.
And if it was done for under 100 million,
yep.
I mean,
yeah, but look at the Flash. Blue Beetle's even less. The Flash has went up on Blue Beetle. Like he's actually been in some films.
It definitely won't lose as much money as the Flash, for sure.
Here's one thing about Blue Beetle we cannot underestimate. Blue Beetle is not known to our generations so much, but he is known to the generation below us.
Do you think?
Two or three generations if you count Culture.
Fuck
Yeah.
but
really? All right, I stand corrected, right?
because he is in a bunch of the Justice League cartoons and stuff like that. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to stand corrected. You might be right because the official trailer has 24 million views on YouTube.
That's why I think this might be a wild card, and I say don't count it out of all these ones coming out, because I don't think anybody cares about this movie because it doesn't have any attachments to anything going forward. Most people might not even know that it's a DC movie, because even the Batman line can be said in jest and just talking about heroes in general. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to mean that there's a Batman in that universe. They could even be just referring to the comic book character himself, right? I mean, there's a way you can get around that in people's minds. They don't always draw that comparison to multiverses. So, you know, it has a chance, but I don't want to say it's going to make any huge amount of money.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we actually got some super chats in reference to that, to be honest. So Mo Sislak for $10 says, could it be that the director wants to connect Blue Beetle to the DCU because it's obvious that fans aren't as excited to see characters with no future in the DCU? Also, Blue Beetle is not going to do well. Hot take.
You could be right. The other thing I did say is that the Blue Beetle is also a character that seems up James Gunn's alley, or at least one that,
and it's
a young boy, isn't he? So yeah.
I mean, like that. I meant like the fact that he's, you know, a lesser known kind of an oddball character, a little bit more of a humorous character in some respects. It's kind of in that vein.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. So I can see him having plans for the character in the future.
But this is a very good comment, saying that the director wants to at least give the illusion, the allure that this character is actually connected in some way tangentially. So being very political about it. I think that's a very smart comment there, Mo. I can agree that that is actually. I think you got a legitimate point there. I think that could be the case for sure.
Well, and again, I mean, this is the character that this is one of the ones I wanted to do well. So I'm hoping the film does good. I don't think it's going to, but if it makes, and here's the numbers, kids, if it makes $270 million plus, if it makes $300 million, it's a profitable film, which DC hasn't had one for a while. Been a minute.
Almost honestly, they'd be better off to not connect it to this, wouldn't you think, Culture?
Yeah, so that it rolls forward, right?
Just so like it's just its own thing.
And I think that it's largely that way until you get the end credit bologna sausage, right? Because I've heard nothing that would indicate anything else, no cameos or anything show up.
I heard they all got cut out, and that's what Nate just said too, is that they all got cut out. What few there were. I heard there was like a Wonder Woman one and a Aquaman one, I think.
And I like I said, from what I'd heard, and obviously you guys are confirming it, that it's just those don't exist anymore. And if that's the case, if that really is the case, and it's not connected to any of this other stuff, this film has a chance, you know. And again, it's not going to make $1 billion, but it could, you know, it's not going to do well.
I wouldn't put it past them to have some random credit scene with Aquaman and Blue Beetle meeting up for no good fucking reason, though, just to set, because we know Aquaman 2 is coming next. Watch them have some stupid thing like that there, but like,
because I like Solo, right? I mean,
yeah, I think that. Well, Paulie and I, when we first heard about they were thinking about doing a Blue Beetle movie, we said, well, he's the perfect kid to be playing this role, and it was like we willed it into existence.
You did.
We had nothing to go off of, right? We were just going through. We went through several actors, but he was the one we both keyed in on, and we're like, "That's the guy. That's the kid right there. Him. They should get him."
Yeah. And then to sort of counter Mo, with one of your comments, Mo says, "We Latinos don't give a fuck about Blue Beetle. We do, however." Love Stallone. We'll watch him all day.
Mo, that goes to my point when I said you don't care. You don't really care at the end of the day if you do get representation. That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Johnny Legs was your Mario. That's what you're saying.
Johnny Legs gives more of a shit than the entire Latin community.
That's gold. That is
put together, gold. I mean.
I'm in trouble. All right, fair enough.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just to sort of round this out, Culture Casino, the YouTube channel is linked in the description box. Please do check them out. Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. Those channels are linked down below. You probably subscribe to Midnight's Edge, but please do subscribe to Midnight's Edge After Dark. Tom runs multiple stuff happening on over there, so hit subscribe there. And Nick from Echo Base Network, the king of the chill streams, hit subscribe to Echo Base Network, runs that channel with Coach. Good channel, great channel. You recently crossed 30,000. Are you up higher now than 30,000 subscribers?
Yeah, we're a little over. We're creeping up on 32,000 right now.
There you go. Nice. So let's bump that up. You obviously enjoyed their input on this stream. Hit subscribe on those channels. If you've liked this stream, this is my podcast that I run twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you've missed any of it, it's not going to be on the main channel. It will be on the second channel, which is Mistakes Reviews Live Archives. You can find that in the description box down below. But that does bring us to the end of the show.
I actually did have one real quick thing, if I can plug. I normally don't.
Oh my god!
If that's fair.
Yeah, go on.
I've been working on this new project, and it hasn't really gotten any attention yet. So I'm hoping people can.
We're not going to subscribe to your OnlyFans, Tom.
Damn it!
Right.
All right, fine.
It's pretty good.
Actually, I'm going through. I'm calling it Tom's Attic Attack. I'm going through all my stuff that I owned from when I was a kid, and hopefully you guys can get a little nostalgia bug along with me. I'll be covering things like trading cards, comic book adaptations, storybooks, all movie related, geek comic booky kind of stuff for the most part. But it'll veer here and there in some weird places. But hopefully you guys can check that out.
So what is it? You haven't actually said what it is.
Okay, what I'm doing is, like I said, just going through these cards and stuff, the history of them. I start off with the history.
You're making a video? You're gonna
it's already done. The video's out already. Yeah, I talk about the history of Topps. I talk about these cards. And then every day I drop a few shorts where I'm going through each and every card of the set. And then I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Yep. And then I'll move on to another thing or two here and there. I've got some comic book adaptations and some other things I'm going to work on. But I started with Ninja Turtles, so this is the first one out now. But so I've already got this out. This is a video going through the history of Topps. And we'll look at the card set.
Are you going to do Garbage Pail Kids, Tom?
Oh, eventually, yeah. I don't have too many myself because that was ones because I full disclosure, I had a house fire when I was a kid. So I've been rebuying a lot of stuff since then over the years. So this is kind of you getting to see more of my reacquired versions of or anything past 13. But yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, so check that out, guys. We just had another super chat come in real quick from Gary. Says, I've been watching the Dollars trilogy for the first time today, and God, they're good movies.
Nice.
Simple stories. They don't make that many movies like them anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Simple spaghetti westerns. Yeah.
Yeah, massively. So like I said, guys, this is rounding out the stream. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you all enjoyed it. I did. Good stream to be back. I've got energy now. You can see I'm actually, fully fueled up. I'm not dying. So yeah, thank you so much. Hit subscribe on everyone's channels, but from me and everyone else, that is the end of the show. Thank you so much. Take care. Peace out. We'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.